We're going to start off with the introduction. So just introducing what secondary school is and how different it is from primary school education. Then we're going to talk about how to select the perfect secondary school, because I know that there are many questions that are surrounding this topic of how do I actually pick the correct school for my individual child. It's a really important decision, and many parents have many questions on that topic. Then it's what to expect from my child's teachers, how to support my child from home, because a lot of the teaching actually needs to happen within the household. There's only so much a teacher can do. And then finally, we're going to touch lightly on the SEND needs. I was a mainstream school teacher, so I don't have a lot of experience in terms of SEN. However, my perspective of SEN, I do plan to give some insight on how to navigate the picking process if there were children with any special educational needs or just with different social, emotional, or mental health needs. So this is just mainly going to be me hopefully guiding you on how to ask the correct questions. So what questions do you need to ask in order to gather the correct information in selecting the right choices for you and your child, or you and your children? Okay, so next one. So I'm sure we're all familiar with this analogy. Big fish, small pond, and then big fish, even bigger pond. That is exactly how I describe the transition from primary school to secondary school. And that's not just for a year 6 student going into year 7, as of course it's going to be daunting because I know there's quite a few year 6 students. You guys are going from key stage 2, the top of your schools, the biggest children of your schools, to them being the littlest and having not much experience in your school. And that is exactly how it is for the parents. You're going from interacting with a team of about 2 to 3 people. So your classroom teacher for your child, the safeguarding leader, the head teacher, and then you're jumping straight into an institution that now you have to cater or interact with a team of around 10 to 14, just for one child. So it's a very, very big transition, and hopefully I can help guide you on how to interact with this team, how to get the most from this team, and what kind of questions you should be having and asking in secondary school. So can we go to the next one, please? So we're going to have a minute of discussion as I bring the next question up. So this pertains to which secondary school should I actually select. So when you're picking a secondary school, my question is, what things will you be looking out for, or have you looked out for if you already have children in secondary school when selecting the correct secondary school? Now, I'm going to give you guys like 30 seconds to maybe write a list together or to just discuss. And it'll be really interesting to hear your feedback. So just discuss and then we can talk about it after. So what things will you be looking out for, or have you looked out for in your child's secondary school? I'm going to pop down and kind of listen. So Cash, you can write this as well. So what kind of things are you going to be looking for in your secondary school? It can literally be anything. So what type of things do you expect to learn? What type of things are you interested in seeing in terms of friendships? Are you going to be moving on with people in your class? So that's going to be an interesting thing to find out. What kind of friendships do you like to make? So like extracurricular activity, yeah, that's a really good point right now. So anything, because I know what are you looking for when you're selecting a parent for what? Yeah. And hopefully I can have a smuggle that answer. Of course, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, So we're just quickly discussing what things you look for in a second school. Yeah. Hurry up.
So, like, that's where she's yeah, because I compared the results. She got into Western Primary School, but then looking at the traveling back and forth, I had another child from my former church.
I feel like there's somebody, especially somebody in the school that going up to engage in help, that are someone that
She says so everything will get
so other than your teachers, or something that you're comfortable to might not feel comfortable to anything.
Yeah. So that's what was so fun.
and it was pizza. No one from my primary school. There was a lot of so I decided to and then unfortunately the year that I left the teachers, so then they just like someone to review and then the official went from ones where it wasn't bad and just go that way and say so that's your good side. You know what it is? Like let's say let's just make that so put me my child and came out and then run the zone. So let's say that you just there and you know what I mean? Oh yes. Like just look around and yes. It's just that's like not really. You haven't actually only been like in training. So those are things that I'm training, but I just didn't know.
It's scary, stressful.
Yeah.
It's like if you tell a
teachers don't
like
like
they're like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
it's terrible.
yeah,
And they have many different branches across the country.
yeah.
There's only about two that.
Yeah.
That's another thing as well.
But most schools and there's one that
Yeah.
council does not. But I understand about that.
And it's part of your guidance because it's just not. The kids are numbers that much right.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I've got the student tell me that you know you're getting paid because I like say
There you go.
so you do what I do. You don't get to talk to me like that. I can do what I like. And when she eventually threw a chair, I'm gonna say good for college. So
I will just survive.
she will come to your class. I would just say I had seen my friend that not nice and like
My friend
Okay, so time's up now, everybody. If I could just have all of your attention. Thank you. Okay. So it'll be, as I was walking around, it was really interesting, a lot of the things that you were saying, especially with Pastor's insight, which is it's the insight that I could say is quite common, especially within the African community. As long as they teach my child well and just get my child the grades. And as much as that is a very important part of selecting a secondary school, it is a very tiny aspect, and we're going to go through in a second. But I'm going to take some answers as well. So, what type of things did you discuss in terms of what you're looking out for in your child's secondary school education? So, from this side of the room, not you, Michael. I'll just go back. Go. No, go on. You know you want to say that. Shall I give you the mic?
No, it's okay. Hello, everyone. It was what we discussed was pastoral. You mentioned, pastoral. Oh yeah, and another thing as well about demographics from what I said as well, and something that was really interesting was around like league tables. which is a big thing. Like I only know about league tables because my mum was also a teacher.
Yeah.
So we knew that when it comes to league tables, you have to like compare schools, and it tells you about the grades. And Auntie Felicia mentioned as well that she actually compared two schools that had similar grades, and she was then able to go to a school that was closer to her house.
Yeah.
So she was comparing from a lot. Another, sorry, feeder schools as well.
Yeah.
And one thing we didn't speak about as well was around like the way I know that I don't have children now, but I look at my sister as an example, who has kids, and the way she does it is she looks backwards. So she goes back from primary school, and she would look for a specific school that would do, for example, like 11 plus, because then she would be able to go to a grammar school, and grammar schools tend to have good demographics as well, and high achievers. Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing that I thought that could add as well, really. But I think I missed some points.
I'd say about, and this is just me, I look at like what's the diversity of like the leadership team as well? Because I just think if you have a certain demographic of leadership, they might not support your children as well. So I look at leadership team as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I look at. You know, and they are what policies do they have? What are their policies? You know, those things are really important. And I also talk to parents and students because you get a mixed bag. Some children will be like, "Don't go there."
Every child will say, "Don't go there."
And then some parents will be like, "Oh, the school is the best." So
Yeah,
I like just try and get different feel.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of the diverse teaching team or leadership team. For example, the primary school where June's at, it's a very white school. And I think less than 1% of the students are black. Maybe less than 10 or so. Yeah. And what happens is the teachers, they don't understand how to deal with black children. So the things where we would think, oh, it's not a big deal, it's a really, really big deal to them. I mean, we Africans, like we shout, we have very loud voices, even when we don't need to shout. And I remember one time, my husband was really annoyed and was having a conversation with the ed teacher. I went, "Oh, you're shouting at me." He's like, "I don't shout. I'm not aggressive. That's how I talk. I'm annoyed." You know, so they don't know how, even with the kids' hair, they don't understand it. You know, the food, they don't understand it. I mean, they don't even let me bring some type of lunch for June. Yeah, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't want hot food, we don't want this, we don't want that," because it's very, very wide. You know, so in terms of diversity, you know, it can be really difficult. But the other school where they were before, it was a Christian school. Most of the students go into grammar schools, but it was also more of 90% Nigerians. So there wasn't really a lot of issues because everyone understood everyone. And even on the phones, they would ask you, Nigerian, it was there. It wasn't, are you black African or black, it was, are you Nigerian or are you white, are you this? So yeah.
Yeah.
That's a quick question.
Yes.
When it comes to junior secondary school, are you not restricted to the council where you live?
No.
So that is only for primary school.
Even
It's
at any time.
It's as long as you can do that.
And
Because
catchment areas as well. As long as you can appeal. I lived in borderline Essex, which
It's
exactly.
now.
Yeah. And I went to school in Newham because I appealed. So if you want that school, nobody's going to tell you no. They will try to tell you no, but they're not going to sit on your head and say, yeah, definitely not.
Debbie, but we need to bear in mind that it does somehow sit with catchment areas
No,
for state schools. So the reason why yours is an exception, because you didn't go to a technically state school, it was a Catholic school. So for the jurisdiction of the fact it was Catholic,
Okay,
you was able to go. So if you're going to a normal state school, then yes, there's an issue with the area that you're in, and they will take that into consideration. But if you're trying to get your school into your child into a faith school
or a school that is a grammar school or an independent school,
You're not
it doesn't
restricted.
matter about your postcode.
Yeah.
So like you could go to like a grammar school, for example, in
Yes.
Yeah, many
So I
schools
live
do.
in
That's
Essex.
what the same was saying, yeah.
So I live in Essex. I have a friend who lives specifically in Grays. Her son goes to school across the bridge in Gravesend,
That's
and
what-
that's
that's
a
what-
grammar school.
yeah.
So she makes sure they do the journey, and the school are more than happy because the majority of the congregation in that school are from Essex.
Yeah, so catchment areas are important, but as Esther said, it depends on the type of school that you're looking for. But again, it's still open to appeal.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you can appeal because I know a child going from Raynham to Easton.
and also it depends on this if it's a specialist school. So even if it is a state school, if it's a type of state school that specializes in sports or if it specializes in technology, if you have specific reasons as to why you want that child to go there, or if perhaps that child needs to get away from the current environment that they're in, many different factors can aid your appeal essentially. But they ideally like to keep you within the catchment area because of money. Yeah.
Because now, Moria goes to a school in, she goes to a school in Redbridge.
Yeah.
We are in Epping. And because we used to be in Redbridge,
That's
so
why
that was
she
when
went.
she got in. But now they are already telling me that if today wants to come in, it would not be able to come in because they've changed the rules. So the sibling kind of rules that was there before has now been taken off. So they won't, because he has a sister there, bring him in. So probably force you to take her out or to somewhere else when it gets to that time. So that's why so when everybody was talking about changing, moving, I was in my head, I was thinking, is it not the same council we're talking about? And if I live in a certain area, like Redbridge, for example, is dominated by Asians.
Yeah.
So most of their schools, you will see maybe 70% Asians. So so even if I move her from one school to another school, as long as it's still within the same catchment,
Yeah.
most likely there will be majority Asians.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's actually one of the points that I'll be covering. But yeah, that was a good question. Thank you for asking. But yeah, you can always appeal. I mean, like, they may say no, they may say yeah, but again, it just depends on the specific needs of the parent and the child. And it may be easier to move her out of another school and come to a school closer to your area. But again, that's going to be something I kind of touch on. This side of the room, what kind of things will you be looking for in your secondary school, or if you are picking a secondary school for your child?
So, something
Yeah, you've got a year six's perspective, very
Yeah.
important.
something I would like to find in a secondary school is good food. Because
Okay.
wait.
You have a point, go on.
At my school, the food is absolutely terrible and they don't cook it at all. Like if they do chicken, you'll open it and it's so hard to open it and then it'll be raw inside. So I hate my school's food, it's so disgusting.
And also, it's a hazard because you don't want to get salmonella, you don't want to get food poisoning, you don't want to get like high or low blood sugar because of it.
No,
If
yeah,
you don't cook your food properly, then people are going to stop eating.
I definitely agree, and I think that with these questions, this is also important. What your child thinks is just as important as what you think of the school. When it was time for me to pick my secondary school, my mum was very, very vocal in the fact that she wanted my opinion on it. They tried to send me to Orford Ursuline, which was within my catchment area, but then I had to appeal to then go outside of my catchment area to St Angela's, which is where my siblings were, which is why they allowed me to go. So from my experience, it actually worked. But yeah, she listened to me, and that was very, very helpful within my secondary school education. So thank you for that insight, girls. Thank you.
Okay, what more?
You got one more? Yeah,
Like two more.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so
Okay, like sports and like you can go out of the school and there's sports teams and netball teams and stuff like that. That's what I mean.
So extracurricular activities, funding for that. Yes, yeah.
and also I agree with a lot of this side. I think that there should be a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like me in my school, the only black people in my entire school are within my family. There are no black teachers. So if I want to talk about anything going at home, because if I talk about anything going like on at home,
Yeah.
if I don't feel like I can talk to my parents, it's not gonna be because they don't know the way that people normally talk at home.
Yeah.
Because if I if I go and tell them the way that people talk in my home, they're gonna ask if I need to call Childline or something.
Yeah.
Because
It's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah. It's that cultural capital that a lot of people are missing. Yeah. So yeah. What are you doing at home? What's going on?
but yeah, I think, and also when like say I don't bring in any hair stuff.
Yeah.
There's like I cannot go to anybody other than my cousin Michaela, which also goes to my school. If I need
Bring the
anything
extra
with my hair.
control.
Yeah, because there's nobody in my school that knows how to do anything with my hair. And in fact, my classmates don't even help. Like they'll touch my hair like, oh, this is crazy.
They shouldn't even be touching
They should
your hair.
not be touching your hair, you know.
Your hair is a personal part
Yeah.
of you.
So I think it's important that you have other people. I'm not saying that other people won't get it, but it's not gonna translate to them the same way that it would with someone else that's actually used to stuff like this.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to be talking about that in a second, but thank you for that insight. Thank you.
So it's funny that Martha mentioned food, because one of my main characteristics when I was looking for primary schools for the boys was food. And the reason being is there's a study that shows depending on what you feed a child depends on their brain functioning and how they can process information throughout the day. So I learned this when I was looking to put David into primary infant school, and they have a specific chef that cooks certain foods, and there's a no sugar policy in the school to ensure that the children have maximized brain function and concentration. So although you guys are laughing, it's a very serious point. For secondary schools, what I'm looking for specifically, I'm not worried about diversity as much. When I say that, I'm not looking for just Black people. When I'm looking for diversity, I'm looking for white, Asian, Chinese, the whole spectrum. I think as Nigerians, we tend to get a lot focused on finding our own, but then you have a siloed culture, and you have a child who isn't exposed to other types of lives, walks of lives, and we're not as rounded as we presume we are. And so I look for all kinds of cultures. I usually go and I ask the schools, okay, what kind of food do you cook? Because that's the easiest way I can ask a question. Are you halal certified? If you are halal certified, that means you cater to vegetarians, non-vegetarians, Muslims, Sikhs, Indians, everybody is looked after. And for you to be able to do that, it means that you don't have a problem in accepting other aspects of diversity as well. I also look for whether the teachers there are actually qualified teachers and what percentage of the teachers are NQTs. I'm not paying money to have a teacher teach my child who isn't qualified or who has only just started. This is my child's life. I'm not playing games. We need to all be on the same trajectory. Also, what I'm looking for is a head teacher who isn't just a figurehead. If I'm coming to you to say, okay, I have an issue, how much control do you have in the situations that I'm bringing to you? Also, is it a case that the school is managed by a board, or is it a case where you've got school governors that are heavily involved? What's the PTA like? And then for secondary schools as well, I'm looking to see what percentage of children go to which kind of universities. I know that might sound like a stretch, but depending on the secondary school you go to, the sixth form you go to, that then leads to the university you go to. And it's too late to be looking at what kind of university you want your child to go to by the time they're going to sixth form or college. You should have known that from secondary school. You should have known your child's strength. Obviously, not every child's an academic. So I also look at my child, what my child's strength is. Are you musical? Are you artistic? Are you a sports person? If that's the case, then that's the kind of classes I'm looking for you, and I'm going to look for that kind of school for you as well. And yeah, that's my secondary school perspective.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes.
How much of this course should go into primary schools? I mean, selecting
How much of
this okay, oh sorry. How much of this assessment should go into choosing primary school?
So with that question, I'm literally going to cover it now, because the next thing that I'm going to talk about is going to answer that question perfectly. So every contribution that everybody has made has been relevant and has actually come up within what I have identified, what you should be looking for in a secondary school placement for your child. So if you could go to the pie chart. Yeah, primary school, yeah. Yeah.
Mariah wants to speak. Oh, yeah, go Mariah.
Okay, so the next one.
Why would you secondary school, if I have options, the first thing I want is good food because that when it was the last of year 2, the food was terrible.
Okay.
They gave us dark chocolate and they didn't even give us any ketchup with fish.
But dark chocolate is extremely healthy.
But it's just
Okay, alright, thank you. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's move on to the pie chart that I'm going to include. And this literally covers everything that everybody has spoken about. So there are 3 main factors that I would look for when selecting a secondary school, or that I have suggested you should look for within your secondary school. And I'm actually quite surprised that nobody mentioned Ofsted. But that is, even though you kind of mentioned it through, not, so let me touch on that. Do you want to comment on there as well? Like, as Esther correctly did mention, not all schools are governed by Ofsted. However, this is a main board that does cover a lot of state-funded schools, which is the target that I'm targeting. Question, yeah?
Does Ofsted cover grammar schools?
It depends on the grammar school.
Okay.
Again, it literally, yeah.
They do,
But-
they do get inspected.
Yeah.
So
Either
what grammar
private
schools
schools
don't
or
they
faith.
cover?
It literally just depends on the school.
I think independent school is what they don't cover. They don't cover independent school. They have their own body.
Yeah.
So independent schools, I was referring to,
So like,
Are you
it's
referring to
like
private
schools.
Fee-paying schools are not governed by Ofsted.
You can be fine. Okay, so the 3 main factors that I have included are the culture/area, progress 8 and achievement 8, which is something that I recognise a lot of parents have no understanding of what this actually is. The next one, again, I've said Ofsted, but I would arguably say, and I'm going to leave you guys to actually decide which the most important factors are after I've gone through all of them. But I'm going to reserve my comments for now, and then we'll talk about it after. But I would arguably have a pyramid of which would be the most important factor. So can we move on to the next slide? Don't worry, I'll do it. Okay, so the first one is culture. Now, school as an institution is an agent of socialization. So that's a sociological term. Is anyone familiar with the term socialization?
Yeah.
So do you know what socialization is,
No.
Martha?
Mummy,
Have a go, no please, have a go. What do you think socialization is?
well, socialization, I'm gonna take it from the fact like, so I socialize in it, yeah. So in school, you're basically in a classroom with lots of people and you're expected to get along. So you might as well try and socialize with people, make friends, make best friends, and everything, because I don't know.
Look, you're on the correct lines.
Socialization, and there's always going to be problems at some point in
Mhm.
school because they just put kids together and expect them to get along.
Mhm.
So there's going to be problems, and there's also going to be different friendships and relationships that are going to be there.
Mhm.
So it's a place where you socialize with others.
Perfect. So you're almost correct. That's not the sociological definition for it, but it definitely does add to the definition. So I'm going to tell you what it is. So socialization within itself, it has 2 parts. You have primary socialization and then you have secondary socialization. Now, the whole process of socialization is to build human beings that can function correctly in society. Primary socialization happens within the home. So this happens with the very young children, with their parents and their siblings, and they learn to build relationships. They learn what authority means, and they learn how to respond to authority and the building of these relationships. And then secondary socialization is when the child is now old enough to go into the outside world and build relationships with their peers and with teachers as a secondary form of authority. And ideally, this institution should be a mirror of what the outside world is like. So how do I navigate dealing with authority figures like the police, who are meant to help me, protect me, but also keep me in line? How do I build relationships with people in the shops to get what I want, or within businesses? This is what socialization essentially pertains to. And the reason why school is an agent of socialization is because it's meant to function as kind of a microcosm of the outside world. So ideally, your child should not be in a school where they are the only black child, or they should not be in a school where they are 90% of them are black. It should be equally diverse. The culture and the area is extremely important because it gives them an insight into different cultures, how to relate to these different cultures, how to respond to these different people, and how to effectively build relationships despite differences. So culture is extremely important in selecting the secondary school. Yeah, Michael, feel free.
I just wanted to say, like, from my own personal experience, why I can actually say that this is very, very important.
Yeah.
Is because I felt like when I first started my career, like in the corporate world, having gone to a school it was a very, very good school. So my mum did the right things in terms of what was around us. It was the best in the borough at the time and getting amazing results. And at the time, when I got to year 7, they had sent 4 people to Oxford and Cambridge. So it was like a very good school at that time. But the downside was the fact that a lot of people in the school, too many blacks, exactly. So no exaggeration, in my year, there was maybe about 6 white people.
Yeah.
The rest were straight black.
Yeah. Mostly Nigerian.
Mostly Nigerian.
Or
actually, yeah.
Ghanaian.
But yeah, the issue is when I did really well, like to socialize and the best way I can, but it made me comfortable to stay in a certain dynamic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when I entered the corporate world, I actually struggled with understanding quote unquote white people jokes, understanding white cultures, and I know a lot of people that are, and a lot of people are like, I know a lot of Nigerians struggle with this as well, first generations as well as like not understanding white people jokes. They're not even. I know that we're all black here and everything, but I'm trying to say it politically. Yeah, and the thing is, what Debbie's saying is very important. So they should be able to. I believe children should be able to go to schools where there is and what Esther said as well in terms of there's a mix of cultures and religions and
Genders, yeah.
I guess so, innit? But for me, I believe that would have helped me a lot more when I started my corporate career. I mean, I'm okay now and I'm still learning, of course, but it would have helped me propel myself faster, is what I'm saying.
The question is the catchment not impacted this?
So we're going to touch on that. The catchment does impact on it, but there are still some decisions that you can make in terms of that. So don't worry. I'm going to try and answer your question as best as I can. So in terms of socialization as well, to even add to Michael's experience, we went to all boys and all girls schools.
Oh yeah.
So I went to an all girls school, Michael went to an all boys school, surrounded by Nigerians and Ghanaians and like Caribbean people. How were we meant to function in the outside world? Even though our sixth form was then a mixed sixth form, and then you have the odd like Asian or the odd different religion that would come in. It was even a faith school. So it wasn't even like there were different religions within the all boys Nigerian school. So when I even went to university, I actually was very, very blessed to go to a Russell Group University, where I then saw myself surrounded by these very, very, well, many of them very affluent white people. I was shocked. Being the only black girl within my seminar, and we're talking about race, I was itching every single comment that they were making because I'm just thinking, oh my God, like I don't know how to navigate this. I didn't speak. I speak a lot. As in, I will put my hand up, I will tell you my opinions, but that instantly made me shut down and made me go into myself. So this needs to be a major thing that you think about, because your child needs to be able to go into the outside world, go to college, go to university, and not be fazed by what they see or different experiences. Just 1 second. I'm going to take feedback in a minute. But can I just get to the next stage? So the questions that you should be asking when it comes to finding out how diverse or how culturally inclusive your secondary school is number one, how flexible is the school's curriculum? So the reason why you're asking that question is because you want to know, based off of the culture that exists within your school, how reflective are you of that culture? I'm a history teacher. Well, I was a history teacher. They mainly teach white history on the national curriculum. But within schools, you do have the freedom to change it up and to add in what you like. Are they taking this opportunity? If not, why? If they have in my majority black school, we were learning about Anglo-Saxons and Henry VIII. It wasn't until I left that secondary school that they started to include things about African kingdoms or the Benin Kingdom. Even to show you how Nigerian it was, they started talking about the Benin Kingdom. What is the ethnic makeup of the school? Be very, very concerned if it is a majority of black, majority of white, majority of Asian. I'm not saying be majorly concerned, but use that as a red flag, because then that clearly means that they're not diversifying it enough. And again, this is sometimes down to catchment areas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if those are the people that live there,
Yeah.
what choice does the school really have when it comes to that?
So this is why I introduced a number of factors. So the key thing here is that even though they should be aware that this is the majority that is within our area, but they should also be aware that there are some ethnicities that also need to be represented. This is why the curriculum has to be flexible. Even though there are many, for instance, many Asians that go to the school that Mariah is in, are they making it a point to introduce different cultures and to expose children to different religions, to different histories? Are they making it a point to do that, or are they just being lazy and sticking to one thing? So even if that's the ethnic makeup, how flexible are they being in terms of introducing new ideas? The final one is, what disparities exist in achievement? This is a key one, because statistically, even though now it's slightly changed, where it's now white impoverished boys that underachieve majorly, before it was young black boys. And then above young black boys, it will be young Asian boys, and then it will be young black girls. So you need to ask what disparities exist, even though these disparities exist across the nation. What are you doing to level out the playing field? That is a question you need to ask. How are you engaging my young black child into the curriculum to ensure that this disparity does not affect my child? But yeah, any feedback in terms of that? So I'm just trying to rush through. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to answer Sister Anna first.
Yes.
In terms of the demographics of the school, of the area. Sometimes, for example, with Brentwood Ushline,
Yeah.
when I chose that school for Gillian, it was half and half. Half a black. In fact, there were some Indians as well, even though it was a Catholic school. So that was fine. But then Gillian's year and the year after was full of Nigerians and Ghanaians, hardly any white students or pupils. And most of them don't live in Brentwood, so it wasn't even about the catchment area, it wasn't about the demographics of the particular area. So it depends. One thing that we black people do a lot is we tend to send our kids to the best schools.
Yeah.
And if I know a good school, I'm going to tell my friend who's going to send out our child, she's going to tell our cousin and everyone. And before you know it, that school would go from, it would become an extension of government college in Nigeria, basically. It's true. That's really what happened with Brentwood, and I had to take my child out. And you were talking about culture and in terms of socialization. I said earlier about how we black people, we tend to be loud. We don't mean no harm or anything. And I was surprised yesterday. I was having a conversation with my daughter, and she said, "Oh, mommy, my friend," because she has a friend who went to Nigeria for 2 years and is now back and wants to come back into secondary school here. And she said to me, "Oh, mommy, do you know so person's mom wants her to come to my school?" And I said, "Oh, okay." She went, "But I don't want her to." I said, "Why? She's your friend." She went, "Yeah, mommy, she's really loud. She's really this. I feel like she will fit in at Brentwood Ushline. But where I'm now, it's, even with my daughter, she's now trying to tone down the African in her, trying to learn more about white people's jokes or culture, or learning about how, they do things, how Asians do things. It's not just black, Nigerian, Congolese, Ghanaians, and so.
I mean, there should be a balance.
I feel like they do, but it depends on information available to people. And in terms of the curriculum as well, you know, she was saying to me recently, "Oh, mommy, we're learning about Eco Atlantic," and I went,
Oh wow.
"Yeah, that's not in the curriculum." She went, "Yeah, but they're teaching us about it. They're telling us about how it's going to be the mega city in Africa and this and that." So the curriculum is flexible.
Yeah.
You know, like what you said. They ask if parents can cook African food. You know, for them, like parents who have maybe level 2 food and hygiene certificate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If they can cook jollof rice, or you know, and they bring it into school, plantain and things like that. They have like a day where they do these things,
Yeah.
just to make sure that the kids feel included, and to also show that they're inclusive, you know, as a school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one last point. Go on, Esther.
The thing that I think we need to be amazingly careful about, especially with secondary schools, and I will say it straight, white people and their forms of acceptance, it's what I've realized, it's a very tongue-in-cheek. You can ask me to bring my jollof rice, you can ask me to, you know, bring my plantain, you can teach my child about Eco Atlantic, but how accepting are you really of that, my child? And what I've come to realize with the educational system in the UK, period, it is not for black people. Unfortunately, we are not built to excel in these situations. So regardless of how diverse we may see a school as being, the work is with us as parents to ensure that whatever the school is giving our children, we are adding on top of that. And the reason why I'll say that is, I specifically, with this whole school thing, I looked for infant schools for the boys. I did all of my research. There wasn't a single report that I didn't read. There wasn't a single parent that I didn't speak to. I ended up taking David to the best school in the area. It was a private school. And guess what? It was full of Nigerians, Black, Asians, you know, particularly Nigerians. And when I got there, the systematic racism that I saw present, regardless of the fact that everybody was a black child, they couldn't even differentiate between a child called Ethan and David. Ethan was at least 30 centimeters taller than David, as well as having a much louder mouth. And if you cannot distinguish which child is which in reception, and you've labelled all black boys the same already at that age, but you are a diverse school, please, let's be careful, let's be guided. I know Nigerians, we are very much into the fact of, you know, we have to be different, our child is in the UK, our child must know about the UK. No, let your child be a Nigerian child. That's who they are. They should still be able to be themselves, but you just make sure that their educational results allow them to freely be them. There's no point having a child that you've raised in a Nigerian background who cannot speak in an eloquent manner when it's needed, who cannot relate with people when needed. So it's all well and good, you know, us having all of this diversity and things like that, but let's just be very careful and let's see how far the diversity really does extend. And if you have a child who might be the only black child amongst white children, that's not bad. Don't ask your child to turn themselves down. They should be allowed to be who they are, but just ensure that the education that they're receiving and the grades that they're receiving, it further bolsters that, and they have the chance to stand and say, yes, I'm a loud African woman, but look at my A stars, you can't take that away from me. So that's where I'm saying, as parents, we need to do more.
Yeah, thank you. So again, so for now, thank you, Esther. Yes. But for now, I'm going to stop taking feedback because you're not taking my points. So just give me a second. There's going to be a chance to speak. But yeah, so can we just move on to the next important factor when picking a school? So Ofsted. Now, Ofsted is a report that you should read, and I do encourage you to read if you're looking for a secondary school. If it isn't assessed by Ofsted, please find the governing board that it is assessed by, look at what categories they assess, and figure out how well that school is doing based off of that governing board. But for now, because it's the most common, because it's the most familiar to us, I'm going to stick with Ofsted. So Ofsted has 4 different categories that they assess. Number 1 is the quality of education. 2, the behaviour and attitudes. This is amongst staff as well as children. Leadership and management. And then lastly, personal development. The last 2, leadership and management and personal development, I'd say that shouldn't largely concern you. I'd say the main things that you should look for are categories number 1 and 2. And with the quality of education, it should be minimum good. So that is grade 2. So there are 4 grades. You have outstanding, good, satisfactory, and then needs improvement. So needs improvement is on its last legs. They're changing the head teacher. They're about to turn it into an academy. Academies, hellholes. We're going to get into why in a moment, but if it has reached the stage of 4 for any of these, it's a very big red flag. So with behaviour and attitudes as well, that relates to safeguarding. So how safe is your child going to be in the care of these teachers and in the care of these the pastoral team? That is what they're looking out for. In many cases, if there's a major incident that occurs within a school, it triggers an Ofsted assessment straight away. So within my school, we were actually at risk of an Ofsted inspection because of a major safeguarding issue that happened between a teacher and a child. So if the Ofsted is lingering around, because they don't come in that often, you know that there is something going on there. Ask questions about it. Another important thing to note as well is sometimes these can be very, very outdated. So you are looking for, because we have just gone through COVID, the most recent Ofsted report that they should have, if there hasn't been any major problems, is 2019. I know that this is the year of Ofsted, so Ofsted is coming back in full force. What did you say? Yeah, you've already had Ofsted, yeah. Many schools, I think even Sydney Russell had it at the start of last year. What did you say?
How frequent?
It just depends.
3 years.
It's
supposed to.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah. So thank you. Sister Anna has just is popping up an Ofsted report, which is very, very accessible. All of this can be found on the government website. You just need to Google it. It is not hard to find this stuff. So
Can I ask this?
yes, go ahead.
So do this.
Ofsted, the government.
No. In the school. So what's going on in the school? How does that information get to Ofsted?
Right. So within the school, I can only speak of my personal experience, and I'm telling you, it is major indoctrination. They will be training you from as in right now that it has started. There will be twilight days after school. There will be training days in the morning. Ofsted is due to come. This is what you guys need to say. These are the type of reports that you need to have ready. They even have mini Ofsteds for us. So senior leadership team will be walking around, carrying out observations in your lessons. So it just depends on the school as well, but this is my experience. They will come in and even involve external people because I came from a trust, so there were 3 different academies. The main academy, they will invite people over to look at different departments. They ask you questions. They prep you for said questions. They know exactly what Ofsted is looking for. And when Ofsted comes, everybody's ready. Like it's like you just literally spit out because it's like a speech or it's something that you practice for so long. So this is why I'm going to move on to what is actually important. Ofsted is important. But hold on, but yeah, go on.
I was going to say, Ofsted is important, but really, it's just pen on paper.
Yes.
When Ofsted's come in, like Sister Debbie said, oh, do this, all the things that we don't normally do, we have to be doing.
Yeah.
Oh, no phones, or get this folders ready, get that phone. As soon as Ofsted's gone, we're back to normal. We don't use scheme of work or whatever. When Ofsted's come in, oh, that's when we get the scheme of work out.
Yeah.
So for me, Ofsted's good on paper, but listen to the child.
Yeah.
They are there. They can tell you if the school's actually doing what they should be doing.
Yes.
Not what is on the Ofsted website.
And yeah, you even have some kids where they'll be like, oh miss, I know Ofsted is coming in today, or I know the external people are coming in today, so don't worry miss, I'm going to act good in your lesson. They know exactly.
And some threaten you with it.
They
as well.
have their
Like,
cheek
they're going
back.
to trip you up.
Yeah, miss, miss, why you give us homework? Now I'm going to act up in the observation. I was like, if I catch you, they know, they are very, very aware of who's inspecting them. Yeah?
So, as a parent, if you used Ofsted to make certain decisions to find out that that school did not represent what was in that was in that report, would there be any accountability back on the school?
So absolutely not, because that's what has. So I will actually give you an example. So within the school that I went to, and I'm not naming it on purpose, just in case somebody tries, don't see me. But in the school that I went to, they actually appealed Ofsted. So they appealed it. It was meant to be unsatisfactory, and they got good. And yeah, the head of the trust. It's not. It should be in special measures, and that is in every shape. All 4 categories, it should be in special measures. The only reason why I'd say look at it is because you are looking for the quality of education. What have they assessed in terms of, okay, if there are schemes of work that have suddenly been prepared, because even though the schemes of work, you don't actually have them, they are still something you follow.
Yeah.
So that is still important for your child's education. They just want to see it. In terms of behaviour and attitudes, safeguarding is extremely important. Have they raised an issue, or is there something that they say they need to improve on? You're looking at the report and looking at, so if you actually go into the files, they list out all the positive things, and they also list out the things that they need to improve to get to the next grade. That is what you're looking out for, okay? Because I'm going to come to you in a second, yeah? And then if we move on, so Ofsted is key, but then the one thing that parents miss out on because they have no idea what it is Progress 8 and Achievement 8. Is anybody familiar with what this is? You're familiar? Okay, you're doing your research. So Progress 8, and this is why I said it starts from primary school. This is a prediction of your child's GCSE grades, tracked from Key Stage 2 SAT results, and is calculated through 8 subjects. So Achievement 8 is actually tracked from the Year 2 SAT results. So they make predictions. Your child should, if your child got all 5s or all 6s in their SATs, by GCSE they should be on all 7s and all 8s. And the school, it makes the school accountable to this measurement and to this tracker. So if the school is not meeting those predictions, there is something very, very wrong. Ideally, school should be a 0. A 0 means that every single child, or a majority of children, have reached what they've been predicted since Year 2 or since Year 6. But you should be aiming for a school that is in a plus margin. So that means that they are stretching students above and beyond what they should actually have been achieving based off of what they've got in their SATs. Just 1 second.
Okay.
If a school is in minus, that means that they're actually doing that child a disservice. That child is not going to reach their predicted grade. Neither are they going to overachieve on their predicted grade, and they're doing less than what they should have, what has been envisioned for them. So if it's in minus 0.25, for instance, that means that mainly all the students in that school, no matter their ability, even if they are gifted and talented, they are achieving a quarter of a grade less than what was expected of them from Year 2. So primary schools are definitely important in the selection when it comes to selecting the secondary school that your child is going to. But yeah, Wale, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So I just wanted to understand this Progress 8 thing a bit more. So just, is this specific to your child, or can you look at other people's Progress 8 within that school? Because let's just say, you know, you're picking out a secondary school and you want to check Progress 8, for example. You want to see what everyone else is doing in that secondary school. So yeah, Progress 8 is actually calculated off of how the school did in terms of the passes and achievement from their GCSEs. So even though it's an average measure, it still applies to specific children. So yeah, so it does affect each child. Even if that child ends up doing better than what their Progress 8 would have targeted them specifically, and the child is in minus, and the school is in minus, they could have done far better if they went to a school that had a Progress 8 that was in plus. So it impacts every single child. And then the next bit.
Sorry, Debbie, I'm a bit confused now. I'm a bit confused. When you're talking about the school in minus, plus and 0, are you talking about the secondary school now,
Yes.
or the primary?
Yes, and I'm going to give you examples.
Okay, and
So-
where can we get this progress?
I'm going to show you on the next slide. So can we go to the next slide, please? So this information is available on the government website. So not Ofsted. So you literally just type into Google Progress 8 Tracker. It comes up with a government website where you are able to select the name of your school, where it is, type it in, and they give you what the Progress 8, what the league tables were, what the Ofsted most recent Ofsted reports were. And I'm going to give you some examples of some schools that I selected from the local area. So can we move on to the next couple of bits of our slides? So for instance, Barking Abbey has a Progress 8 record of 0.31. That means they are above average. Students are performing better and are achieving a third more than what they were predicted since year 2 and since year 6. And the next one is the Warren. So even though this is 0.03, this is average. So children are not being stretched in this school. They are just achieving what they were meant to get anyway with the right, with the right guidance, so to speak. But still not enough. Next one. And then over here we have the famous Harris Academy. Harris Academy in Croydon specifically, minus 0.1. That means children are performing less than what is expected, a tenth less than what they are expected at GCSE. So again, all of this information is available on the government website. You can even find it for specific primary schools. So Progress 8 is, if you are looking at an Ofsted report, for instance, let's say with Harris Academy, they have an Ofsted report that is outstanding, but their Progress 8 report doesn't suggest that the quality of education is outstanding. So this is why you need to look at a combination of these factors in terms of culture, their Progress 8 attainment, and Ofsted. These are all extremely important in judging how to select the best secondary school for your child. And again, this isn't something you should be thinking about as soon as they reach year 5 or as soon as they reach year 6. Be thinking about it as soon as they enter key stage 1. This should be your main, you should be focusing on where is my child going to go to sixth form. I know my children are going to go to Brampton Manor or something like that. How am I going to get my child into Brampton Manor? Again, even if you look at Brampton Manor, I'm sure, based off of what I remember, their Progress 8 was less than Barking Abbey's. And that's because it's the main school, not the sixth form. But I believe someone's going to speak about sixth form.
What if you look for Scotland? What are you going to do?
What if you move to Scotland? They have their own way of judging. I can only speak about this one. But yeah, sorry, can we move on to the next slide then? So any questions about Progress 8 so far? Oh, we're good? So you don't have a question, you're just going to say something. Okay, yeah, what? Yes.
In your experience as a teacher, your own school's Progress 8 and the students that you had, and obviously you've been a part of the GCSE process. So, looking at your school's Progress 8 and your achievers A to C's, was that relative, and could you see that reflected in the results that was achieved by the children?
I could see it every single day. Okay. So not just in the results, I could see it every single day. Okay. As in, within the school that I'm in, their Progress 8 was actually, it was in minus, and it's only recently gone to that 0 area. In terms of the resources that were available for the children, in terms of what they were able to do in terms of cultural capital, they were not stretched. As long as you were handing in that piece of work and you got a grade 4, excellent. No child, there was not much differentiation. And when I say differentiation, I mean how they catering it to children with gifted and talented needs or children with SEN needs. In many cases, there weren't even TAs for students who had SEN needs. So you'd have a class, because I was a humanities teacher, we had mixed classes. I'd have a student who couldn't even write in English versus a student who was targeted to reach 9s by the end of GCSE. I'm meant to differentiate to these 2 students, and I'm not being given any type of resources to do so. So it was reflective in my daily teaching as well as the results that they would then move on to get by GCSE. So yeah.
So if a parent was in that scenario and
Yeah.
they had a child, if a parent was in that scenario and
Yeah.
they had a child and they did things like extra tuition and things like that, I just wanted to see what impact external factors could have on changing what the school environment is doing for a child. That was the reason for
Yeah, definitely. External factors can definitely help. I mean, there were children that were receiving tutoring within my class, and I noticed that their literacy versus the literacy of children who their parents did not even care that they went to school on a daily basis, very different. But again, I'm going to touch on that, on what parents need to do in addition in a second. Yeah, thank you for that though. The next one. So this one is what I should expect from my child's teachers. So you've now made the important decision. You have now come to a place where you've assessed the progress aid, you've had a look at the culture, you've had a look at the Ofsted reports, and you said, this is the ideal school for my child. What should I now expect from my teachers? I don't know if I'm trying to like get through it quickly because I want leave you guys to have some time to discuss, but I'm just going to get through it and then at the end we can ask questions. So again, just to stress, the teacher to pupil ratio intensifies from Key Stage 3 onwards. So your child is no longer responsible to just one teacher, they are now responsible to about 11 to 14 teachers. They are responsible to those 11 to 14 teachers, but that individual teacher, so again, using myself as an example, I had 8 classes on a day-to-day basis interacting. I would interact with around 100 students a day. Overall, I am responsible for around 200 to 230 students, which means that if you are not overachieving or underachieving, unfortunately, you are going to pass the radar. Like, I'm not even focused on you. You're doing what you need to do, great. That's it. If you know that your child is somebody that can slip under the radar, they can do well, but they can be pushed a bit further, your job is to ensure that the level of engagement is you're dealing with that. So for those of you that are in who have children in secondary school, so you have the child in secondary school, don't you? Do you know every single teacher that your child has by name?
No, but the ones who have the most impact.
So the ones who have the most impact be maths, English and science.
Yes.
Excellent.
And the pastoral team.
And pastoral team. So that's something that I'm trying to actually prove that is sometimes counterproductive. So even though you know the maths, English and science teachers, your child could behave completely different in history, in PE, in music, and it can still have a major impact on their education. But because you're not making that engagement with that teacher, you have no idea. Every single teacher is just as important in the education and in the care of your child. And in many cases, many parents didn't reach out to me. I would reach out to parents. I made it my job to reach out to parents. Hello, Ashley, you okay? You okay? So then I would reach out to parents. But the key thing is that those were the children that would actually be like, Miss, I'm gonna tell you this because, you know, like we're kind of like that, like we're cool like that. They're talking to me, they're not talking to the English or maths or science teacher. I have the most information on your child, but you're not gonna reach out to me. And I'm not gonna reach out to you either unless it's a seriously pressing matter. Every single teacher has a big impact on your child. Did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to say something.
Yeah, can we get the mic to her, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, in my school, some classes are ahead of the others because it's like 2 sets. So we have top sets, and there's 2 sets. So there's 4 top sets and 4 lower sets, bottom sets. But we all have different teachers. So we have, for example, 4 science teachers, and even though we're all in the same set, some classes are ahead of the others because the teachers are different. And then the same in maths, but maths and English, there's 8 sets, so there's different sets. But in all the other ones, there's 2
You have
sets.
a number of teachers.
Yeah, but we have 4 teachers who teach the 4 different classes in the set. But for example, my class and another class are ahead of the other 2 classes in our set because we have different teachers.
Yeah, so it's very important to have a personal relationship with every single teacher. The next thing that I would argue as well that you need to expect from your children's teachers, every single one, I don't care if they're doing PE and running around.
Saying that, I know the PE and the maths.
You know,
French teachers.
Okay, there we go. But you just don't know the history ones. I'm taking that personal. Okay, so challenge. So if you notice your child is constantly getting detention because they're doing too much of this, or if you're noticing that your child is constantly on report because they're just disengaged, there's something wrong with the teacher. And I will tell you that there is something wrong with the teacher because of challenge. So are you over challenging my child to a state where they just don't want to engage anymore? Or is there not an appropriate amount of challenge in the sense that you're not stretching them? I can use myself as an example. I always got into trouble because I used to talk so much in class, as in every single report I'd be with the senior leadership team, or every single parents evening, they'd be taking me to senior leadership team, like, what we're going to do with Deborah? She's achieving very well, but she just talks too much and she's got too much mouth to the teachers. I wasn't being challenged. So they noticed that I wasn't being challenged. They noticed a bit late. Then what they did, they moved me up and said in maths, and I was quiet because I didn't know what I was doing. So when you're challenging that child, they are now in a place where they have to engage, otherwise they're going to feel like they're going to look silly amongst their peers, or they feel like, yeah, the teacher's giving me attention. I'm getting attention here, which is what I'm craving because I'm in school. Yes.
I guess this is where parental involvement is so key.
Yes.
If a parent is aware, because I always say every behavior is communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
So your behavior was you communicating
So that there's something wrong. Yeah.
There's something wrong, and if as parents we are as involved, we will try to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely, and that's even why. The reason why we were able to find out is because of challenge. It's because my mum asked the important question. Okay, so what are you doing to challenge my child then? You keep saying she keeps talking to, and that's because she was a teacher. She knew. Because you guys aren't teachers, you don't know the kind of questions that you need to ask. Ask about the challenge. Is it appropriate for my individual child? Then skipping on to the next one, engagement and reporting. Please speak to those teachers, speak to your pastoral team. They know about every single relationship. They know who's with who. They know how long it lasted. They know who is best friends with who. Friendships change like the weather. Relationships amongst these children change like the weather. That has an impact on their education. The pastoral team is witness to everything. They may choose to tell you, they may choose not to tell you because it's not important for safeguarding. But trust me, if you're friends with them, they're going to tell you. Next one. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the very last section because I'm really trying to rush through. How should I support my child with their learning? The main thing that I would say in secondary school is literacy. There is a big push for literacy. Literacy is not just about can my child read? Every single child in this room can read this. But not every single child in this room can comprehend what this says. So can we move to the next slide? There's actually a scholar called Quigley who researched literacy in secondary schools and found that as a result of COVID, the literacy rates amongst children, especially amongst Black ethnic minorities, it's become a lot worse. And that is down to the environment that they're in, or maybe because at home we're strictly choosing to speak Yoruba. That's not a problem. But in terms of their reading comprehension, they lack. So even though they could read those words that I showed on the slide, what I've blocked out is the words that they don't necessarily have a definition for. So they're reading all of that, but they do not understand what it means. Literacy is extremely important, and they're including it from maths, from PE to science to English itself. Literacy is important for every single subject. So at home, you too need to have a big push in literacy. And I'm going to give you some facts on how to do that. So 5 ways to build reading comprehension within the household is having your child read out loud. So through the push of oral literacy, what you'll find is that they'll have a better understanding of comprehension. I'm beginning to say words, I'm beginning to define words, and I'm beginning to use them in sentences with you. Hallelujah, Asha, thank you. The next one, the next one, provide books at the right level. How many people can say they know their reading age? You know your reading age? Excellent. Do you know your child's individual reading ages? You know your child, and that is what you need to do. You should be providing books that are level to your child's reading age, and also pushing it just above, so that literacy and that reading comprehension can increase with it. The next thing is you need to supplement their class reading. So if I'm giving my children in history a book on Henry VIII or a chapter on Henry VIII, you find a book about Tudor history and you supplement that class reading. You push them with every single subject that they're doing. Next one, You talk about what they are reading, so don't just give them a book and say, make sure you read it by the end of the week. Ask them questions on it. What is the plot of this story? Who is the main character? Who's the protagonist? What are they talking about? Could you just summarize the last chapter and what it meant to you? What do you expect from reading this book? By asking those questions, it goes from just being able to read a text to then being able to comprehend what that text means, which is the difference between an underachieving child and an overachieving child. Next one, which is the final one, I believe. So how I should support my child with their relationship. So I'm mainly going to leave this one to the next speaker, but what I would say is that you need to use the pastoral team to your advantage. What have they noticed? Have they noticed that maybe in a certain lesson your child has become more withdrawn? Have they noticed that around certain people they act slightly different? Because I know a lot of children that were acting a certain way in my classroom that wouldn't act another way in another classroom or even act home. All of these kids are chameleons. They're gonna act like, especially if you've raised your child with a certain set of morals, they know sometimes that what they're doing is wrong, but because they want to look cool, they're at that age where their hormones are raging, they're gonna do what they want. And that's just the fact of the matter. A way in which I say you can monitor these is by showing interest in their everyday. So you need to build transparency. A really key way to begin to foster this is when they come home from school, instead of the how was school, who did you sit next to on lunch today? What did you talk about in history today? I noticed that you sit next to Bianca in maths. What's it like to sit next to Bianca? Asking these key questions begins to shift it from, yeah, school was good, to detailed responses that then give you an insight into what they're doing and how they're responding and reacting to people. So that key one of who did you sit next to at break and lunchtime today? Yes, stress is stress. Every single person deals with their own stress. Please do not undermine your child's stress. They are just as stressed as you, even though your stress is a bit different in the sense that the cost of living is going crazy. They are still stressed themselves. Please find ways to speak to your child about their mental health. Find ways to speak to your child about how to manage stress and how to manage anxieties that they have. I know in terms of the church, we pray, but sometimes that is not enough. You need to be having a conversation with your children, even from primary school. And the very, very last one is SEND in mainstream schools. Now, I'm not a SEND teacher. However, as in a mainstream school, I was made to teach some SEND children. It is ridiculously hard. What I'd say, no, these are the main characteristics of SEND. So communication, interaction, cognition and learning, social, emotional, mental health difficulties, sensory and or physical needs. SEND is a very, very big umbrella of a plethora of educational needs, if they are specific. So what I would look for is the type of funding that is available for SEND, what funding is available and how much of that funding actually goes to the child. Because in my school, very, very big push on SEND. The children were still being pushed into mainstream classes without any TAs. Where's the money? Because I still don't know. It wasn't going to those SEND children. But yeah, ask key questions about SEND. How much of that funding is going to my child? In most cases, it is a good idea to send your child to a specialist school, but in some cases, based off of the special educational need, sometimes sending them to a specialist school can cause them to regress in their development. So again, it's specific. Ask questions about this, and then go into my conclusive thoughts. And I'm very, very sorry that
We've got one question
from an online video. How can one help a child with bad grade in English language? So again, this is all down to literacy and reading comprehension. What I would say is, because it's in the English language, I would have a conversation with the English teacher. I'd find out what their main objectives are to improve in their English subject. Have those objectives not just in English but in history as well, in their humanity, in their wider humanities subjects. What are they doing to develop them? If there's a specific subject that they're doing really, really well in, especially well in, ask both teachers to come to a meeting and see what they're doing well in one subject and why it may be that they're failing in another. But again, it's usually specific to the child, and just have a conversation with the teachers. sometimes it's not just by shout that we can help these kids. Like, why are you not reading your book? That's not enough. It's often more, there's more to it than that. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. If it didn't, ask again. Then conclusive thoughts are, please be guided in picking the secondary school that you have. It is not enough to send your child to the best school in the borough. There are many different factors that are in choosing a secondary school. Please be as involved with your child's education as they are involved. So just as they know every single teacher they have, you need to know every single teacher they have. You need to know every single objective to achieve the best that they need to achieve, as much as the child does. Don't leave it to parents' evening as well, because parents' evening, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting there with you for 2 minutes and I'm trying to get you out the seat, unless it's a pressing matter. So build that engagement inside and outside parents' evening. And if there are no questions, then I am going to wrap it up. Are you sure? Yeah. You can't ask me after anyway. But yeah, okay, thank you. That's
I've got so much to say. So good afternoon, everyone. So Sister Debbie has told you about the nice things and how to do things, how to go about secondary school education. And I'm basically here to tell you the not so nice part, which is post-16 education. But before I go on, I need to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching basically all my professional life in the UK, so I think it would be fair to say that post-16 education, I can say that I'm an expert to some extent. Anyway, so today I'm going to speak to you about how you can choose colleges and sixth form and how to support your child, because what we parents or Africans, mostly in my experience, tend to do is just leave the 16-year-olds to choose where they want to go college, or what sixth form they want to go, and basically we don't know nothing about what's going on in college or sixth form. Okay, next slide, please. I was supposed to bring a ball, but my assistant forgot. So, the thing there, the glue stick. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't need it. You're going to use it.
Oh.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to do is I want you to throw the glue stick to the next person. But before you do, you have to tell me what you know about sixth form or post-16 education. So just say one thing that you know, and then you throw it to the next person until it gets round the room.
So the grades you get in sixth form will determine your UCAS points that you can use for university.
Thank you. You throw to anyone.
Just pass it. Don't throw it. Don't throw the microphone. Or pass the mic if you don't.
Okay. Well, I think that there's a difference between sixth form and colleges. Sixth form is more secondary school-like setting, I think, while college is much more freedom university-like environment, kind of.
Not really, but I'll get to that.
Oh my God.
I think for me, I'll just say, based on my experience, I had the independence, and also there was that discipline, because I went to sixth form college, and there was actually a bit of discipline in the college that I went to. So I sort of had the balance of making sure that I get my work done, but also I had a bit of discipline on the side. So yeah, sixth form, a bit good, yeah, the one I went to anyway.
When applying for university, you have to write a personal statement.
Yes. Thank you.
Gosh, I was trying to think sixth form. My son is in sixth form at the moment, and I'm trying to think sixth form. I think sixth form, you're thinking of your future choices and you're thinking of your future careers. So my son does IB, and so they have 6 A levels or equivalent to 6 A levels. So I think sixth form can be quite intense.
Yeah.
Well, he's at the grammar sixth form, so maybe that's why. Okay. Anyway.
Post-16 education, I don't believe it's mandatory. So you don't have to go to sixth form.
You have to be in education till you're 18.
Well, you don't have to apprenticeships. You don't have to go into.
It doesn't have to be sixth form or
Yeah,
college, but
exactly.
post-16.
Yeah. So before you had to kind of like go into the route of a college or a sixth form, but now you can skip that and go for an apprenticeship, which that's another story.
You're a British citizen. You're a British citizen now. They gave you red passport.
I know that people about six form, they come back college, they come from college, they come on. So
Hopefully you find out.
yeah, so I know that it's going up. That's how I'm trying to learn. It's a bit confusing because for us it's very straightforward. Secondary school, then primary school, secondary school, university.
Yes.
It's not that.
There's no college.
Yeah, you have junior secondary school, senior secondary school, but for us it's just one
big blow.
So sorry that we don't have one, but that's.
Take the mic.
So what about this first?
So you don't know what college is.
This is why we're saying that I hope that most people who are from Nigeria, first generation, will understand, because people genuinely do not understand what is going on.
Alright, so
You can do either BTEC or A levels.
yes. Thank you. But I think there's something called T levels now. We'll get to it.
There is oh. I shall found mine.
Maybe June and after. Alright.
I don't think they thought that far ahead.
Post 16 is after secondary school, so do you know anything?
It's before you go to university.
Yes, that's something.
I think in sixth form, do you have multiple choices of what you want to study?
You choose a course.
Yeah,
Choose
like,
one course.
yeah, you can choose multiple courses.
No, only one.
No, you can choose multiple.
No, not in college.
Do you not choose your A levels?
No, we do. If you're doing BTEC, it's a course.
Oh yeah.
If you're doing T levels, it's a course.
But
You
you
choose
choose A
one.
levels.
A levels is different. So A levels you get to pick. Like you have choices. Yes.
Yeah, options. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have options. What type of sixth form you want to?
Yeah, you have to choose what sixth form you want to go.
Okay, so in sixth form you have options.
Yes.
Egbe fún Mary. Tell Mary.
I think sixth form is like you can have sixth form in secondary schools, like your secondary school can have a sixth form.
Yeah.
And then college is like a separate.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so
Do you have a question? No?
all right. Thank you, everyone. So apart from a few people, obviously most people here have one or two things that they know about post-16 education. So everything that you said is really post-16. So after secondary school, sixth form or sixth form college. So you have sixth form colleges. You have sixth form in secondary schools, and then you have further education colleges as well. So that is post-16. So whatever education that your child is getting after the age of 16, is post-16 up until the age of 18. So in this country, your child has to be in education until they are 18 years old. So we get some students who obviously don't want to study, or why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. And then they answer the questions themselves. They go, yeah, I guess I have to be here till I'm 18. And they just really frustrate the lives of the teachers until they're 18 and they go, because they have to be in education. So post-16 education basically covers apprenticeships as well. So which is another route for children over the age of 16, because obviously every child's strength is different. Some are very academic and they want to go to sixth form, they want to get 6 A levels, 5 A levels, and then you have the ones that want to do BTEC. But we're going to get to that, and we'll get to why some students actually choose BTEC. It's not because they feel that they're not academically strong, but we'll get to that. Okay, so next slide, I'm going to be telling you about the facts and fictions, basically, of post-16 education. Sister Tommy. See? This is what we face when we're teaching, and then you have students who then have their own meeting. Okay, so you need to concentrate. You're here to get information. This is some of the things that I'm going to talk about. I've got a bullet point already. Thank you. Okay, so facts. I'm going to start with the facts. So education is compulsory until the age of 18. BTEC students who study BTEC can also go to university. I've had a conversation with a friend's son, and he said to me, oh, they're doing BTEC. I don't know, I can't do BTEC because it means I'm not going to go to uni. And I went, no. And the parents actually thought that as well, because they didn't know. They only know what their kids tell them. So, yeah.
So BTEC, what's the difference? Sorry.
What's the difference between and A-levels and...
So we have different types of BTEC. So you have, if the child from secondary school, GCSE, they have English and maths, so they go on to level 3 BTEC, whatever course that they decide to do. So that means that they will be there for 2 years. And then you have the foundation diploma BTEC, which means that level 2, if they don't have English, or they don't have maths, or they don't have both. Because we know in this country, you don't repeat, basically. So they just push you on to the next. So the problem becomes the next person's problem. Yeah.
Sorry, regarding BTEC, I know you said that you can do a BTEC and still get into university.
Yeah.
But the universities that you can get into are limited, because certain universities look down on BTEC students versus pure A-level students.
Yes, but now they have ratios. They have to, universities and just like colleges, they're mandated to take a certain number of people from certain ethnicity, certain, like diverse. They want the university setting to be diverse. Although they do require, some will say, oh, we want you to have 8 for your GCSE for maths and English, including BTEC. Some would say 5, it depends on the uni, but you can still get into Russell Group universities with BTEC. It depends if you have English, maths and science.
So your GCSE results have to be reflected.
Oh yes, definitely.
But then hydrogen goes up.
No, I'll get to that. I have that already. I'll get to that, don't worry. Okay, so there are many progression options for students post-16. So, for example, apprenticeships. A lot of students, for children who are not very academic, they can do apprenticeship from level 1 or from level 2 or from level 3. It depends on what they got coming out of secondary school. So there are many options. So it's not just, oh, my child is not academic, then it means that they're not going to go college or they're not going to go sixth form. It depends, really.
So can students who go for apprenticeship still end up in university?
No, they go into employment. So if they want to go to uni, then they have to get their GCSEs as well. But if you're doing apprenticeship, there's really no point going to uni. There's no point because you come out with your qualification, and most people just want to go into the work route. Also, one thing that we need to be aware of is when it comes to apprenticeship from post-16, it's mostly white people who do it because they don't really value education as much as we do. So for that reason, if black people are going to do apprenticeship, they usually do post-18. So instead of going uni, they then do apprenticeship degrees, which I'm going to get to as well.
That's what I was going to ask about degree
Yeah,
apprenticeship.
they're different.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying to some, because I was like, actually, you have degree apprenticeships that are equally as valid, I think.
Yeah, but that's after 18.
Yeah.
But from 16 to 18, you can't use that to go into uni. No, most of them use it to go into work. So you don't have to choose BTEC or A levels. You can get into apprenticeship if you prefer technical to academic. So that's another fact. So also I said learning can be academic, it can be vocational, and it can be work-based. So that's where T levels comes in. So with BTEC is a vocational course. A levels is academic, and then work-based is the new T levels that's just been introduced, which I was supposed to learn at my college, but yeah, that's another story. So T levels is more work-based, but at the same time, it's higher than BTEC. So that's what they're trying to do now. Because of what you said about how they look down on people with BTEC. So T levels is that, so now it's A levels, T levels, and BTEC. Yeah, so with BTEC, they get to go into work and they create a portfolio whilst also studying at college. Yeah. However, to get onto the T levels course, you have to have English at a certain grade, maths. So it's not like BTEC where you can have level 2, you can have level 1 as well, or you can have level 3. But with the technical one, which is the T levels, you have to have a certain grade in maths, in English, and science. So with BTEC, you just need English and maths. If you don't have maths or you don't have English, they put you on the course, but at the same time you're redoing your GCSE. But with T levels, you must have passed your science. So either triple science or double science, you must have passed. You must have your English as well. You must have your maths as well. So like A levels, something else which parents and students believe to be untrue, which is actually true, is that BTEC has exams. So with BTEC, I have students who 2 weeks ago, is it up to 2 weeks now when we got the BTEC results? And out of my students that I was responsible for, 2 of them failed. You can actually fail BTEC. You can actually finish at 18 without a qualification. Yes. So it's not just A levels that people fail. So I'll use the course that I teach, for example, health and social care or health and science. So in year 1, you have 2 exams, unit 1, unit 2. In January, so year 1, you have unit 1 exam, and unit 2 as well. And then year 2, you have unit 3 and unit 4. Now, what they've done is unit 4 is new. We've only had 2 of that. And if you fail unit 4, let's say that you've passed all your exams, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, you've passed all your courses that you submitted. If you fail unit 4, you get to receipt it in May. And then when the result comes out in August, if you fail, that's it, you don't get no certification whatsoever. So that's 2 years gone. So the reason why a lot of students go for BTEC is, BTEC is easy. BTEC is not easy. A levels have to do exams. BTEC, you have to do exams. Unlike A levels, where you can resit your A levels later on, with unit 4, after the resit in May, if you don't pass it, there's no option to do it again the following year, and that's it, 2 years gone. So you still do exams.
Would you have to repeat the 2 years?
You can't, because then you'll be 18. So if you want to do it, you have to go to another college and then you have to pay, which is £5,000 every year. So you have to pay about 10,000 for 2 years to get your BTEC.
What's the way out for such person?
There's
If
no
they don't have 5,000 to pay.
There is no way out. So what they would then need to do is look for apprenticeship. But what they're doing now, because obviously there's like this rush where everyone wants to do apprenticeship. So what they're doing, which I recently found out when I took my niece to an open day, what I was told was now we don't just accept people and then put them in placements, apprenticeship. You have to go and look for a job. You start that job, then you ask your employer to sponsor you. Yeah.
Okay, so now this person has failed BTEC and they don't have 10,000. Can they, so apart from apprenticeship, can they do the A levels? So what happens, that's one question.
If
The
they've done
second is,
BTEC, they're not going to pass A levels.
so for A level students that also did not pass, is that different for them?
It's different because they have the option to redo it. It's
Without
different.
paying?
If they're over 18, they're going to pay as well. Yeah. Once you're over 18, huh? Yeah, they can get student loan. Yeah, you can get student loan if you're doing if you're over 18. Well. Okay, so just a quick one. So fiction, most people think that college is just an extension of secondary school. No, it is not. It's a different, you know what Sister Debbie was saying about big fish in a small pond, fish in a big pond. Okay, so I can't go to uni unless I go to sixth form. That's not true. You can go to uni, but as Sister Esther kindly pointed out, the uni that you would go to would be limited, but you can still go to uni. BTEC is a low-level qualification and for dumb people, which, you know, my friend son sort of said, because even I've heard a saying, you know, from one teenager about, you know, like, if you're wearing, say, Fendi, for example, which is a designer, and you're wearing River Island, they say, oh, it's like the, you know how River Island tends to sort of like copy and make their stuff look like Gucci and what, so it's like BTEC Gucci. You know, so yeah. A-level students are expected to be smart, so they do not get enough support. No, they do, they do get support. They get SEN teachers, you know, they get people who sit with them, support teachers. Some people go to sixth form to do A-levels, but, you know, life happens. They might come down with a mental health issue or family issues or this and that, and then their grades sort of like jobs and, you know, they get people to help them. People with learning disabilities should just go for apprenticeship. No, they can go to college as well. You know, I mean, in my classes, I have a lot of students with learning disabilities, and we have people who help them, who sit next to them. Sometimes maybe not enough, maybe not as much as we want, but or as much as the student needs, but they still do get someone to sit with them. BTEC is easy, you can submit when you like. No, you can't. You know, like A-levels, there are deadlines, you know, and you have to follow the deadlines. If you don't follow it, then, but I'm still going to explain that in detail as we go on. Okay, so how can you support your child? What I found out in my experience is that most parents leave their children to just get on with it once they like get to college. They see their children as matured. They see them as, oh, they'll be fine. If there's any problem, they'll speak to me. But what a lot of, which is what I said earlier about, now I'm going to talk to you about the not so nice part of education. In my experience, what I've seen, mostly with Black parents, is that we don't know nothing about what goes on in our kids' schools. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know who they're friends with. We don't, in fact, a lot of Black parents don't even attend open evenings. You know, so their kid come home and say, oh, mommy, this school open evening is tomorrow. I want to go. Why do you want to go? All my friends are going. I'm going with my friends, blah, blah, blah. And okay, that's it. So they don't even know anything about the college. And obviously, as a teenager, if my friends are all going to this college, that's where I want to go. Because I want to be with my friends, you know, we're having the time of our lives, we're enjoying ourselves. So that's where I'm going to go. And we tend to have this, well, teenagers, you know, I've gone through that as well, where we think, oh, this friend is literally our life, our best friend. We must be together. You know, I love them, they love me. And yeah, our future is, you know, entwined. We're going to be together forever. We're going to be besties till our old days. And yeah, and, you know, so most children would then want to go to open evenings with their friends, choose the colleges where all of their friends are going to, or choose the college with the reputation of, you know, they let them do what they like. Some colleges are strict, some are not. Some sixth forms are strict, some are not. So children tend to go to the ones that are not strict, the ones that have all the happening babes, big boys. And that's, yeah, I'm telling you, it may sound somehow, but that's the truth. That's the truth. The college where I only just left in July, they are now trying their best to, you know, repair their reputation. So now, where we would take students without English or maths and say, oh, you've got good grades in everything, but not English, we'll put you on the course, but then we'll also enroll you for GCSE. They're not doing that anymore. I'm still in the group, and last night, the manager was going, please do not enroll anyone who hasn't got English or maths, 5 or above. But we would normally do that. So now they want to change that reputation of the dumping ground for Redbridge to, if you know you're going to mess about, don't come to Redbridge College.
Yeah. Oh, just in addition to this as well, I'm not sure if it's been touched on, but actually what the government has now done is that they have stopped student funding for university if you failed your GCSE maths and English and you cannot repeat it.
Yeah.
So where there were many chances for you to repeat it in college or in sixth form where the school would even pay for it themselves, that initiative has gone, and if God forbid your child fails any of that, you're paying for their university.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Also, we need to be aware that this country basically have an unwritten constitution. So it means that things change every single day. You know, earlier on I said, oh, I believe I'm an expert. The only reason I said that is because I've gone through so many changes as a teacher. You know, I've been teaching for over 10 years in this country. So every single year, it's something different. We get told this, and then the following year, we get told that. So you need to be, it's a lot of work being a parent. It's not child's play at all.
Yeah. Sorry, I might just need a bit of clarification, because what you're saying now, I believe in it, but it's a bit contradicting to, you know, I was recently listening, I was in a group, like they were talking about how, I mean, Black heritage, how to deal with social services, losing children to social services and all that. And they were like, Black you know, parents focus a lot on the grades, that you need to, you know, pass your GCSEs, like you're saying, they remove the funding and all those things. But at the same time, their children are revolting, saying, I don't need to have the high grades. So because of the rift, they're losing their children to social services. So how do you then manage that in saying, I don't want to be too much about the grades, but they need to pass with everything I'm hearing now?
The basic truth is grades matter. We can talk about mental health, which is good. We can say, oh, don't push the kids, don't do this, don't do that. But we, as much as this country tends to portray a very inclusive society, a very multicultural society, we cannot deny the fact that as Black people, we have to work twice harder at work, at school, to get to where the white people would normally get to. So grades are very important. Me, I'm sorry, I'm a teacher, I understand my kids, I get involved, blah, 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 but grades are very, very important. Because they say all these things to the students at school, but then after school, after uni, you see all the white people in all the higher positions. But then, and also we need to understand that there's a system, there's a way that they like put the Black kids. There's where they put the Black kids mentally. They structure them mentally to feel like, you know what, this is what you can do. This is what you can achieve. 2010, I did my thesis on underachieving Black boys. And what I found was that the way that they, for example, in school, they tend to push these boys into this category of in detention, they get excluded. I was talking about Brentwood Hushline the other time about how they don't know how to deal with Black people. What most parents found was when the white students did something really, really bad, they speak to the parents, blah, 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 blah. But you let your child, your Black child, as much as just move during the lesson. The next thing is, I know students, like 3 or 4, who got excluded from Brentwood. Not that what they did was right, but it didn't really amount to exclusion, yes. And yeah, and what when I was saying it, a lot of people didn't understand until it happened to their kids at that school. They have this thing where they systematically damage your child's educational record. But then you have other schools where when your child is not behaving how they should be behaving, they would say, you know what, we'll send you for a reciprocal. We'll send you to another school for 2 days, 3 days. We don't want you to have a bad educational record, because these things damage your chances as you go along in life. If you're going to a new school, say for example, your child's going to a state school and then God blesses you, you want to change them to a boarding school, or you want to change them to independent day school. They're going to ask for your child's educational record. And if they have anything there, they're going to say no, because no one wants, if we say it's in our WhatsApp group. When you're enrolling, watch out for certain people. Watch out for behavior. Watch out for their body language, because I, as a teacher, I don't want no one to come and stress me. Because I've got my kids at home, that I'm stressing over. I don't want to stress over another person's child. It's my job as a teacher to stress over them, but to some extent. The last open day, I was talking to the students, and we had 2 students who came in. They came in about 30 minutes into the open day talk, and they had literally bra tops, and they had bikinis, literally, because the jeans were really, really short. Yeah, and the hair and everything was done with the, proper, I'm going to a party dressing. Not a problem, maybe that's how they like to dress. Now, they came in really late, everyone was already getting on with the program. Oh, can I go to the toilet quickly? I went, yeah, you can. Can one of the student ambassadors take her? Then the other ones said, oh, I want to go too. The 2 of them who came in late. Next thing, ambassador's back. Where are the girls? Oh, they said they know their way, they'll come back. Okay. Then I'm teaching, talking, open day, because we had all these slides and stuff that we were doing. Then I see these 2 girls roaming around the college, right, from the window. And I picked up the phone in the class and then I called security. Then the safeguarding manager at the college went to them and said, oh, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. We're just seeing what the college is like. But you're here for open day. You're supposed to be with me. Then I take you around the college. Now, would you enroll students like that? You already know that they're going to come give you problems. You know, so about what you're saying, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I just think it just put the parents like in a fix. They don't know what to do because the social services is all over the place, screaming and shouting. But at the same time, you want a good thing for your child. But in school, your child is being told, just take your time. And at the end of the day, it gets to GCSE, it gets to A levels, and we're back.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what Sister Debbie was saying about starting from secondary school. It's about the foundation. I mean, you're not going to build a house with stakes, and then when you get to the top, you say, oh, I'm going to put cement, I'm going to put bricks. You have to build it from when they are in primary school to know what exactly it is that they're going to do in secondary, to know exactly what they're going to do when they get to college and when they get to uni. Because for me, I feel like primary school is the forming stage, right? But once they get to secondary, if you don't have a handle on things, it's not going to go very well, unfortunately.
So it's going to be tragic.
Yeah, yeah.
I just, when I do my session, I'll touch on what you're talking about. But I was just going to add to, you know, I was just going to say, I was doing a talk yesterday to a group of school leaders, and we're talking about the whole adult education bias. And so when we were talking about how our children are seen and treated more harshly, that's all part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just agreeing with what you
Yes, yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, for me as a parent, as a Black person, and this is not me being biased, but it's just the fact that we Africans, we Nigerians, Ghanaians, we tend to not really have a lot of information. So what I do when I notice that, you know, this child in my class, because we have tutor groups. So let's say that for level 3 BTEC, let's say we have 6 groups. They give each teacher either 1 or 2 groups to be the tutor, so that you know each child personally, you can help them and things like that. I tend to really it may sound somehow, I'm supposed to be unbiased, but they're never given chances. So I tend to have relationships with these children, you know, where I talk to them, I'm like, yeah, I'll fight your battles, I'll fight your corner, just feel free, come and talk to me. Anything at all, come and talk to me. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you stay back after class. It's not because they've done anything, it's only because I want to speak to them. You know, maybe I've noticed that they're talking to a certain, you know, child who is like the troublesome one in class, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, you know why your parents came to this country? It's because so that you can have a chance in life, like what they didn't get, you have. What you doing? You know, I speak to them and it does work. It works. But the parents, very, very important. I mean, there's a particular student of mine, she's my child's namesake, so I'm like, oh, you know, she's called Teniola, and I'm like, oh, I really like you, blah, 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 blah. Come and speak to me. I taught her when she was in level 2, and then she got to level 3. And every time we needed to speak to the parent, no one ever picks up. And one day she said to me, my mom said, so I said to her in class, in front of the whole class, I'm like, yeah, I've spoken to your mom, I've spoken to your mom. Tenny, I've not been able to speak to your mom. She went, my mom saw the call and she's like, what's Felicia calling me for? Yeah. And I was like, oh, really? I thought she was lying. I thought, you know, teenagers would say anything, right? So the next time we had an issue with her, very sweet girl, but she gets carried away a lot. So I called the mom again, didn't pick up, you know, and she said, my mom said you should stop calling her. So when I spoke to the mom, I finally got to speak to the mom because it was really important to speak to the mom. And I said, oh, you know, Tenny said you didn't like me calling you. She went, yeah, because you're always calling me when I'm at work. But I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to talk to you about what's going on. She's like, yeah, you can tell Tenny, she can tell me when she gets home. And that's not the first parent. That's not the first parent to do that. But yeah, okay, let me not jump. Okay, so know your child's strength and patterns of learning as well. It's really, really important because you don't want to over push your child because of their mental health. We have a lot of students who have all these mental health issues, and we have to refer them to this. And since COVID, everything is my mental health, my mental health, my mental health. It's like a way to get out of things, really. I understand that yes, mental health is important, but a lot of the times it's because people are being overpushed, really. Okay. Also, a lot of parents don't sign up to their kids' parents' portal. Most people don't even know that they can sign up. Secondary schools have it. I mean, I get, with my daughter, she doesn't like it when I'm like, have you done your physics homework? She's like, how did you know? I'm like, yeah, because I got the email, because I'm signed up, I know the deadline. If it's 8 p.m., I'm like, yeah, it's written there that it's due 8 p.m. She goes, yeah, but I don't like it. Why do you know? Why do you know? But I'm on it. You should be on it. Colleges, I don't think any of my the students, I don't think any of their parents are signed up. They don't even know if their kids are in school. But if you're signed up, I'm talking about college now, not even secondary school. If you're signed up on the parent portal, you can see if your child's absent. So what we've noticed is parents don't sign up. So what we started doing is we mark the register within 15 minutes of starting the lesson. So whoever is absent, their parents get texts. And that's when you see the emails coming in. Miss, I'm on the bus. Miss, I'm running late. Imagine that we didn't text. They wouldn't bother. So monitor their assignments, encourage them as well. With BTEC, a lot of parents don't know nothing about assignment deadlines. Once I had twins in my class and their parents called the tutor to say, oh, I want to report a teacher. Felicia, she's stressing my girls out. They were not sleeping. They were awake till 5 a.m. this morning. She gave them an assignment and gave them 3 days to submit. So when the tutor was talking to the parent, I went into the class and said, oh, why are you not going home? It's time, let's go home. And she's like, yeah, Felicia's here now. Can you hold on so you can speak to Felicia? And then the mom said, yeah, you're stressing my kids out. And I said, I didn't give your kids 3 days to submit. I gave them 15 days, 3 weeks, 15 working days, including 3 weekends. But what they've done is they've left it till last minute. Because I always say, deadline is deadline. Because I move on to other units. I've got other units, assignments to mark. I'm not going to keep waiting. So don't come to me and say, oh, my cat died, my dog died. I'm not in that state to do assignments, blah, blah. They come up with ridiculous excuses. It's unbelievable. Some of them will come up with, like, you just, what do you think me for? Like, what do you think I am? Like, am I that dumb not to know that you're lying? So know how it works. If for every BTEC assignment is 3 weeks, know when the assignment goes out, know when it's due, because these things affect your child's chances. Yes, BTEC is equivalent of 3 A-levels, but if you get this distinction for your assignment, I think that's 24 points. If you get merit, I think that's, wait, no, what am I saying? 1 minute. So 8 points for passes, 16 for merits, and then 24, yes, I'm right, 24 for distinction. So if your child is getting distinction, if you add all the points, it would meet the UCAS points that they need for their course when they're applying at uni. But when they get passes, that's just how many points? 8 points, 9 points. If you times that, it's not a lot. And that's why a lot of them don't get the courses that they want, and they end up going for clearing, and then they end up doing what they don't enjoy. And really, it just affects their chances. So you really, as parents, You have to be on it. You have to know when assignments are due. And you have to push your child. If their strength is passes, support them, sit with them, read their work. Say to them, you've not done this well, you've not done that well, why not change it this way? Why not do it this way? Push them to get a merit. If their strength is merit, push them to get distinction, because the more they get, the more points that they gather for their UCAS. Monitor attendance as well. Attendance, lateness, I had a student who kept coming late to my classes in the mornings. Afternoon classes, it will be waiting for me outside the door. Morning classes will be halfway through the class. And then when I spoke to him, he said, oh, that's because I have to take my younger ones to school. Then I take 1734 back in, to college. So I'm like, what's your mom doing? Does your mom live with you? Does your dad live with you? He went, yeah, they do, but they don't really wake up that early. So he comes late to lessons and he misses the vital information in the morning. Because really and truly, if I start my lesson at 9, right? 9:10, everyone settles down. The next 20 minutes is really when I'm giving the information that they need. And then the remaining 30 minutes, I'm assessing their understanding, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I've really taught what I need to teach. So if you've missed the first 30 minutes, you've missed that lesson. There's no point coming in for another 30 minutes or 40 minutes where the class is ending. So it's really, really important that we support the kids. Also, I think the next one really is that know your kids. Know every single thing that they're doing, every single thing that they're doing. It's hard work, but if you don't do that, you're gonna regret it. And that child's gonna blame you. Especially kids that we have nowadays, they're very big-mouthed. I didn't ask to be born. When you have teenagers, they're gonna say something to you and you're gonna feel like banging your head against the wall. Like, yeah, if it's too much for you, why did you I'm telling you, it's hard work. But if you persevere, it's only a few years till they're 18 and they're in uni, and then you can relax a little. I said little because when they get to uni as well, that's another thing. They're meeting new people, they feel free. The freedom that they didn't have at home, on the 18, they get that freedom, and that's another thing. But I always say, and I say to my kids, 16 to 18 really, really determines your future. So you have to really take it serious. You can play all you like, but the minute that you write your GCSE, just know that that's it. Now my future is beginning, and you need to really, really make sure that you're not messing your future up. Anyway, so some of the issues that teachers face, and these issues lead to your child's attainment, whether they succeed or whether they fail. So I've talked about attendance, lack of engagement as well. If you're stressing the kids out so much at home, so much responsibility, pick your sister from school, make dinner, I'm going to work, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. The kids are tired, they're teenagers, they don't have energy. Without even doing anything, they don't have energy. If you wake a teenager up at 2 o'clock, it's like, I haven't got school. Why am I waking up at 2? I'm supposed to sleep the whole day. Then you ask them to do so many things. When they get to college the next day, they're just deflated. So, that's one issue. Now, what we Africans don't like to hear, sexual orientation. We have so many Black children. I know a child whose mom has a CNS church in East London, and she's lesbian, and the parents don't know, but we know. And for safeguarding reasons, we can't go to the mom and tell you, So these are some of the issues. Know your children. It's really, really important. We have children who are in the toilet, because we've got kids here, but they are basically doing what adults do in the toilet. I mean, I caught one, a Nigerian boy, a Nigerian girl, Yoruba boy, Igbo girl. Now, what she's then done is she's accused the boy. This is someone who I actually heard all the sounds, right? Didn't seem like she was being forced. Then when we said that we were going to call the auntie, because she lives with the auntie here in the UK, and then she said, oh, he forced himself on me. He said if I didn't do this, but you both went in the toilets. And the only reason why we knew what was happening was all the sounds, acceptance sound, let me put it that way. So now, as teachers, what do? We have to involve the police because it's a safeguarding issue. Safeguarding in schools, very, very important. So we've then involved the police. The boy's name, blah, 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 is now on record. This, that. And the girl has now confessed to an older teacher, oh, he's my boyfriend. Now, the boy was expelled before she made this admission, and she got treated like the victim. So we need to know all these things. And I said, I'm not going to go to the boy's mom, but if for any reason, any one of the teachers or students hear that the boy's mom wants to take the college or the girl to court, I'm ready to be a witness because that boy's life is literally ruined. And the mom was just crying and crying and crying on the phone and saying all these things that Yoruba mothers say when they feel like, there's a problem. But she didn't know how to go about it. So we need to get involved. You need to know your children's teachers. You need to have relationship with them. We tend to quickly nip it in the bud when we see a child whose parents we have relationship with, whose parents engage. We tend to quickly call the parents and say, can you speak to so and so? He or she didn't used to be like this, but now they're going this way. That's because we have a relationship. That's because we feel like they're involved. One thing that my kids' school would always say, if there's anything at all, is, oh, call Pius's mom. She's always very supportive. Because I'm not about to let my child's future be ruined. And I know that, yes, some teachers can be a bit much, but there's no smoke without fire. So you have to really, really be on top of it. Another one is missing exams. Because parents don't have their kids' timetable. I mean, I have a student whose brother called me during parents' evening and was telling me that, oh, he thinks college is a bit too much because the sister is at college Monday to Friday. And I said, no, she's here Monday to Thursday. She's not here on Friday. But she leaves home to go to her boyfriend's house on Friday. Now, parents don't know. So I then took it upon myself for my tutor groups, the 2 tutor groups that I had, to screenshot their timetable and send it to their parents' emails. So you can know where your child is. You can know when your child should be at college. So if I don't see your child at college, I don't call the child, I call the parents. Because when you call the child, they always have an excuse. So I call the parents and I say, oh, we've not seen Debbie this morning. Where, is everything all right? Is she okay? Is she well? Is she on her way? And some parents go, oh yeah, I was gonna call you. She's not feeling well, blah, blah, blah. Some will go, no, she's left home since 8 o'clock, but she's not at college. So you need to really, really know. Missing exams as well. We have students who miss exams. Parents don't know that there is even an exam. I mean, a Nigerian woman, a Yoruba woman, in May was crying on the phone and telling me to even lie. So our daughter missed the exam in January, didn't come in. She came back and said, oh, I'm not feeling well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there is a chance to resit come May. On the day of the exam, I got to work, I think 8 something as opposed to 9, so that I could start calling the students. So I called this girl twice, didn't pick up, and then I called the mom. oh, where is so and so? She went, oh, she's in Birmingham. And I said, why? She went partying with her friends at University of Birmingham over the weekend, so she's going to come back in the afternoon, today being Monday. And I was like, she has an exam. You know, she went, Omo, you take by me, Omo, you disgrace me, my father will laugh at me, And she was crying, and she was like, I can hear from your accent. Are you Nigerian? I said, yes. She went, please, can you lie that she's not well? I said, no. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie. You know, if you say that she's not well, that's what I'm gonna put on the system. However, you must present a doctor's note to say that she's not well. So I think she then called the girl, and then she called me back. Hi, miss, I'm not feeling well. I went, no, you don't sound like you're not feeling well. You sound like you're having the time of your life. Anyway, this girl failed. Do you know the funny thing? Level 2, I taught her at a different college. And I started teaching that class September. I think I saw her only twice in a year. She never used to attend. We will call, nothing. So when I started at Redbridge, guess who I saw in my class? The same girl. And I went, what are you doing here? She went, yeah, I'm here now, miss. Okay, welcome. So I said to my manager, I said, watch out for this one, because I taught her for 1 year and I only saw her twice. Yeah. So anyway, 3 years in college, no qualification at the end of it, because she missed Unit 4 exam in May, in January and in May. So that's 3 years. She's 18. She's not going to be able to go to University of Birmingham now to party with her friends. You know, so you need to know. Also, black parents, we don't like, oh, your child has learning disability. We don't even want to hear that they're slow, or maybe they're a bit behind, or maybe their mates are already speaking a whole sentence at once, but mine's still talking maybe bit and bits. We don't like to hear it. What we don't understand is, if it's documented, then your child gets the help that they need. If it's not documented, they don't get any help. You know. Oh, I thought you wanted to say something.
I was gonna.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say that this is usually picked up as early as nursery or primary school, and some neurological differences are detected. So as early as the age of like 5 or 6, so that's as soon as they enter year 1. And I actually had an experience with a student in my class. He was a young black Ghanaian boy, Yao. Can never forget him because he was just such a sweetheart. I noticed that he had like severe special educational needs. Like he could formulate a sentence, he'll have a conversation with you, but the processing was very, very, very slow. And I spoke to his head of year, who said, yeah, this is a no-go area, as in since primary school, they've been trying to get him tested for SEN, but his parents were saying, no.
Yeah, we call on Jesus to take the learning disability away.
Yeah, you're not going to test my child for nothing. I don't want my child to be put on the system. But what they didn't understand is, as a result of that, they were putting him at a disadvantage, because if he's not in the system for it, we can't put you through to SEN. You're not going to get the funding that he needs, which means you're not going to get the extra laptops, you're not going to get the extra support. So if they do say, oh, we detect that there's something that is like slowing down the processing of your child, just let them do the testing. Just because it's for their help, it's for the help of that child, essentially, not to their detriment.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, because if it's not, even the documentation goes up to uni. When we submit work, we get marked, say 100%, blah, blah, blah. But when people who have learning disabilities submit work, there's a certain percentage, how they mark it. So they give them like extra leeway. And also at college, where a child is not achieving, not attending, or having issues processing, we can't tell them, when, also I was gonna say, how BTEC is 2 years, we can say to a student, we don't want you back for year 2. However, if they have documented learning disability, like SEN report and things like EHCP, if they have all of that, we don't have a choice because we cannot tell them don't come back, because where would they go? So Africans, we need to allow our kids who say, no one wants their kids to have learning disabilities, but if it happens, it happens. It doesn't mean that they cannot achieve in life, it just means that they get more support to reach their potential. Behavioral issues as well. It may seem like I'm just talking about black children, but really, when we look at the demographics, like my college, for example, at Redbridge, we have a lot of black students. What you tend to get is a lot of behavioral issues, a lot of loudness in the corridor, a lot of smoking this, smoking that, a lot of, technically so many issues. Now, when I go to Epping, because that's also part of our colleges, the demographic is different. We have less behavioral issues. So we need to do a lot more better as parents. It starts from home. What are you showing your kids? Because your kids are like sponges. It's not really what you tell them, it's what you do. Are you saying that it's okay to gossip? Are you saying it's okay to be violent, to be aggressive? We have to be very, very, very careful, because when they grow into, and remember what we were saying about secondary school as well, in terms of socialization, the minute that they feel like this is the right way to behave, this is the right way to live, then when they go into college, they are the same. In fact, you can even tell with the dressing. I've had a parents come in for a meeting, and when the teacher came back, I'm like, who came for so and so church? Went, oh my days, you should see them all proper, like black in it woman with the hair gelled, eyelashes long, tight this, tight that. And then when the kids come into class as well, what do you expect them to wear? They're a reflection of their parents. Okay, I'm gonna go really, really quick. Friendship issues as well, help your child. You can start from when they're young in terms of how to build relationship. You need to let them know the importance of building good relationship, positive relationship with people, because what a lot of teenagers in this country, especially the ones that are born here, they're very British in terms of friendship and relationship. Like 1 minute they're besties, the next minute they're enemies. You need to really, really work on your child in terms of emotional intelligence, because these things, they can make or destroy that child when they get to college. Because if they're having issues, we have students who literally fight, like proper fist-on fights, and what then happens is, because we don't tolerate violence, we say goodbye. And then it means that no college will take them, because I'm telling you, no matter what they're saying about being inclusive, blah, 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 no one wants a troublesome child to join their college or their school. Okay, any questions before I move on to the next slide? I'm kind of like rushing through it because we started late. Okay, so how can you support your child's teachers? So can anyone tell me how they've supported their child, secondary, primary, how have you supported your child's teacher in their educational life?
During Black History Month, I went in and I did a session on migration. We were looking at history and migration. So I did a session with a group of children.
Okay.
And then another time did a session on like cooking and brought in food. So different ways.
Yeah.
And also speak to the head sometimes, and just ways that we can support around issues of diversity, but also there was a racism that we had. So generally try and get involved and support them.
Yeah.
And do not stay took their chocolate.
Thank you. Anyone else? How have you supported your child's teacher towards your child's education? Like, what have you ever done in terms of maybe speaking to the teachers or meeting with the teachers? What have you done? How have you built a relationship with your student and your child's teachers?
I talk with them at the end of the day. So I talk with them at the end of the day when I can, and when they have their sports day or fun days, I try my best to go just find out really how my child is doing. So I tend to ask the children every day what's happened, who are the the good kids, the naughty kids, what's the teacher said, done, and with that I can paint a picture of what my children think the teacher is like, and then I speak to the teacher to see what they think my child is like, and then I try to create a picture that has both sides of it. Because I've had times when, Mark has come home and cried and it's like it's the end of the world, and the teacher says, well, actually, it's not, it wasn't that bad when we spoke to her. So at times kids know how to push your buttons, and yeah, she's done that once and she's never going to get to do that ever again. She's, but yeah, they can, they know how to pull at your heartstrings, but the teachers usually tend to have a better view of what the child is really like.
I was going to get to that. Thank you. Yes, the teachers, I don't want to say that they know your kids more than you do, but I can tell you that I know my students more than their parents do. I know their sexual orientation, which they often hide. I know what they do. I know if they're smoking weed. The parents may not know unless maybe they're caught, and then we have to inform the parents. I know if your child has a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I know if they're already sexually active. You may not know. So it's the same with primary and secondary. Teachers know your kids, and that's why it's really, really important that you have a relationship with, and it's easier at college because you don't have to have a relationship with every teacher. Every class or every year group, they have like a year tutor or a group tutor. So that's the only person that you really need to speak to say, oh, how is my child doing? You can request for a meeting before open day. It doesn't have to be only on the open days or parents' evenings, basically, that you speak to your child's teachers. You can send an email and say, oh, would you be able to call me for about 10 minutes this week? If you give me a time, I'll make myself available. Then you find out what your child's doing, how your child's getting on, and also listen to your child because, I say I'm supportive because I tend to hear from both sides, like Sister Anna said. Like Gillian, for example, she does not like her English teacher. So she thinks that she's the Wizard of Essex. She does not like her, she doesn't like to be there. In fact, she'll pretend to be sick just not to go to that class. Now, I say, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, but then behind her, I've gone to the ed teacher to say, my child is complaining about this. Is it possible that that teacher calls me sometime this week when they are free? And then I spoke to the teacher and she went, oh, I actually did this, that to help Gillian. I did this, I did that, but Gillian just thinks this. So then I went back to Gillian and I spoke to her and I'm like, okay, let's do it this way. So after a few weeks, then I asked her, I said, so how is it? She went, it's not the best, but at least it's better. So we're getting somewhere. And I said to her, well, you've only got a few more months with her. Just continue doing what you're doing. And actually our grades sort of like improved in terms of how she's doing in that lesson, because at some point she's like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just gonna go in there, I'll just sit there like that. And when she's done, I'll get my bag and then I'll go to the next lesson. So I'm like, just keep doing what you're doing. Next year, you're going to a different English teacher anyway. So there's no point, not learning anything. And like I always say to my student, I said to her as well, I've got my qualifications. Your teachers have got their qualifications. Whatever you do now is for yourself. It's not for your teachers. At the end of your course, they're going to put your name down. They're not going to put my name. they're not going to rob my name off my qualifications and put your name. So if you think that going into a class because you don't like the teacher, you're doing the teacher a favor, no. In fact, I feel like you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're the one who's going to lose out. They're going to focus, like Sister Debbie said, they focus on the best students in the class and the ones who have low ability because they have to help those ones, they have to support them. And then we all, as teachers, we like the good ones. We like the really brilliant ones. You know, we want to show that, yes, we're teaching these students and this is why they're achieving this is why they're turning out this good, blah, blah, blah. So you need to know and to support your, so go to the next slide, to support your child's teachers, really important. Also, how do you choose the best uni for your child? So if you have a child who's going to uni, okay, I think I'll let Sister Choma answer this because you have a child at sixth form already. So how are you going to choose, or how are you choosing the university that they go to?
So with universities, it's about open days, looking at courses, looking at also what grades do they already have at GCSEs, because that's really important. I mean, we've been looking for a while. But I say to people, if you're looking, find out what grades you need from GCSE level first. Because I've had younger sisters who couldn't do courses they wanted because they didn't have the right GCSEs. So that's what we start with. And then also just going to visit, not just taking what you see online for granted, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
And looking at a whole host of things. Yeah. So lots of things to consider.
Yeah. So I say to, thank you, I say to parents and to students, like Sister Choma said, look at the thing, like the course that you want to do, find out the grades. Is that university, is it good for you? Also, is university good for you? So it depends. Not everyone has to go to uni depending on what they want to do. But as Black people, we want that doctor, nurse, lawyer. In fact, nurse is like even low. We want to be lawyers, we want to be professors, we want to be surgeons, we want to be all the big, vocations, forgetting that there are other ways in life to excel, So I would say if you're choosing the uni that your child is going to, the course that they want to do matters as well. If my child wants to do nursing, am I going to ask them to go to uni and do a degree, or am I going to ask them to do an apprenticeship? So now, what is the difference between a university apprenticeship degree and a degree? So if I'm an employer, I have a hospital, for example, and I want to employ nurses. Those nurses that I want to employ, I have one with a degree, 3 years, first class, no experience apart from their placement. And then I have another nurse in front of me who has an apprenticeship degree in nursing. So whilst they're studying at uni, they're also working and earning money, right? So they're gaining all the experiences, and they've spent 4 years doing that. And the other one has spent 3 years sitting in class, maybe 2 years doing placements. Who are you going to employ if you were that employer?
Your apprenticeship.
Absolutely. So depending on the course that your child wants to read at uni, apprenticeship might be the best route for them. And they come out with no student loan debts. I mean, I have almost 100 grand of student debt because I kept going from one course to another, to another, to another.
Another thing that I wanted to actually talk about, just on the back of what you just said, Auntie, is so I didn't know this until I changed employment at my current place where I'm working at now. And literally half of the grads, they've literally been able to, and you don't have to get the best of grades, you have to just get a decent amount of grades. And what happens is so do the research as well, so certain organizations will pay for your child or the child to go to a college that does a course which is equivalent to a degree. And because they're funding it, they come out with a degree and a job.
And experience.
And on top of that, there's no student debt. And on top of that, if you find the right organizations, they actually pay you while you're in university. So a lot of them are actually on the real grad salaries. So what they do is 2 days in college and 3 days actually doing the work that other grads are doing. And
So I was speaking with Auntie about this when we started, and yes, it all sounds fantastic, but as a black person we're at an advantage to speak positively. And what I've seen in my own personal organisation, and I've spoken to my brother about this as well, it does work for Caucasians. If you look in 5 years' time, the individuals that were on that trajectory, they will be put into positions of management, and their counterparts, who are either Asian, minority ethnics, will still be at the employee level. And I know it's a sick way to look at it, but for me, as a black person, get as many qualifications as you can, work as
You
hard
still
as
come
you
out
can.
with a degree?
You can, hold on, but you come out with a degree, but you have to stay. Depending on the organisation, you have to stay for a certain number of years with them before you can go. And where I am, unfortunately, the people who are at a disadvantage now are the people who have come up with that scheme, because we've done an organisational restructure and we do not have positions for them, and they are not our priority. So when I'm looking at my organisation and who I'm putting in the next 5 years with the way our organisation is going, Shanice is not part of it. But Lauren, her Oyinbo counterpart, they've already put where she's going to sit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but
sorry, can I just say something? Sorry, I'm not gonna discredit my sister's view, because at the end of the day, this is what she's observed in her organisation, and unfortunately, in the corporate world, there are certain organisations that are behind others when it comes to inclusion and diversity. So what Esther is saying is correct based on what side she's in at the moment. But in the organisation that I am in at the moment, there is a huge push for inclusion and diversity. I can count of at least 5 coloured people, so black and Asian, that have been able to do this course, got the degree, and they've been promoted as well. So they are earning salaries of about 40 to 50k already with no debt, if that makes sense, within the next 2-3 years. So it's about researching about where you want to work, what their diversity is like as well. And of course, what Esther said as well also matters, because in her organisation, where, for example, she's the of Shanice, Shanice, for example. Oh, he's all right. Leave him. Yeah, so yeah, he does all the time. But the point that I'm trying to make is, it's still not the end of the world. You can still pivot. You can still wait 2 years. I think the time frame is before you can leave, and use that degree and go somewhere else.
I mean, if your employer, even I remember when I was at a college in Grace. When I went in with my PGCE. Now, my manager and a few other people on the team didn't have their PGCE. So the college was like, oh, we're going to sponsor you to do your PGCE, but you cannot leave in 2 years, but they're going to pay for it. So it's just 2 years, no loans. Do you know how much?
Sometimes we say it's just 2 years, but it depends on,
the amount of loans that I have.
Apprenticeship is being done, like a workplace. Things are happening and you can't leave. You get what I'm saying?
I understand your point.
It's not what you bargained for.
Yes, I get your point. Your points are valid.
Especially in hospitals, you know what I'm saying now? You are in a place that you can't move out of that place because of what you've signed to do. And what is happening to you there? I just pray that you'll be able to even get the course done.
Yeah, I understand your point of view, but what you're saying is very important. But if I look at, okay, so I've got my degree, and then I've got 2 masters, Now I've gotten student loan for all of this. The amount of students loan that I have, I can tell you that I'm never going to finish paying them in my working life. So if I have to sacrifice 2 years to stay at a particular place just so that the college or the company can pay for my masters, I will do it.
2 years is just it's just an exam.
It's 2 years. Well, at colleges, if they pay for your masters, it's 2 years. I don't know about other organizations.
For some organisations, like the one that I'm familiar with is KPMG, they actually take them from college level. So they do it from 16 all the way up until like they're 21, 22.
Can someone give her a mic, please?
So some apprenticeships, because you'll be working part-time and then going to uni part-time, it's usually like 4 years, for example. But what I was just saying is that even if the place is giving you help, you know that at the end of it, you're getting a qualification.
And you're going to leave when you finish.
Yeah, it's worth it if you're not paying any money.
Yeah.
So if they let you pass, no, but in most cases, they're actually assessed by outside authorities as well.
It's not
just that
No.
Especially within the sector that I'm in. But before you even touch on that, Michael, what Michael was talking about in terms of funding for young Black people, there's also stuff like the Amos bursary that exists for young Black boys, and that follows them from like when they're in GCSE level up until university, and it just gives them extra money every single term to ensure that disadvantage is leveled out.
You get this funding. I mean, I literally got my sister a job from one of this funding. Black people from Black and ethnic minorities under the age of 24. We want you to come for this interview, blah blah blah. And she got the job, in the city, and it was a really really big job. And then from there, she went to. So there are so many routes that you can get these things done. It's not only through university, but obviously Black people who just want our degree. We want to say, I'm a doctor, and blah blah.
Sorry, just to say, it's interesting you said that, because that was so my son is literally thinking of university, and I'm not really one of those parents that say you have to have a degree, because I'm like, you're coming out with no student debt, and in the industry wants to go to tech. Like, you can do a boot camp. You don't need a degree. This is exactly what I'm saying. And
you need certification.
That's it, and that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying to him, definitely check out degree apprenticeship, because at the end of the day, you're getting those hands-on experience, you're getting the certification,
you're getting paid,
and you're getting
your apprenticeship degree as well.
So for me, that's why you're talking about university. We haven't really looked, because I'm more geared towards degree apprenticeship because of what he wants to do. If maybe he wanted to do something else, then it would be different. But in tech,
you don't necessarily need a degree in tech. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So. But like we said, university degree, you get academic and vocational courses, you get the qualifications, but you don't get the experience, really. You get 3 years, you get it done, because some people are like, 4 years is too long, but what's the difference between 3 and 4? If you can do 3 years, you can as well and it's not even like a full year, it's from October to May. So, what's stopping you really? So you end up with student loans. Some people are fortunate where their parents can pay for it, but how many of us can pay for, especially now that,
you were saying that
if you go to the uni, you don't have experience. And I said there are exceptional courses.
Yeah, of course.
So I just wanted to highlight. Like medicals, nurses, like doctors, like health and social care, because they have to do hands-on experience alongside.
Yeah, like placements. But remember, if you were doing nursing,
I'm doing my placement and I'm already working.
But the thing is, you have bills to pay. We're talking about 18-year-olds who are going into uni to study nursing. First year they're in class, second year is when they actually go into placement, and
they're doing it now from year one.
Okay, well,
when
I did nursing back then,
like you said, things change every time. Yeah. Now they're doing it from year one, and what the NHS is working alongside with universities that counts towards their experience as well.
If I'm going to go to uni, right? 3 years, and from year one, I'm going to be doing placements and hands-on experience, and I'm still coming out with debt. Why am I not just going for 4 years?
No, I'm fine. I'm just saying, for those that there are some courses that you can't go the other routes. Yeah, I was just
There are so
clarifying
many
that.
courses though, because for example, my cousin, she's into HR and she's doing a degree apprenticeship. She's working in the city, she's getting paid, blah blah blah. And at the end of the 4 years, she's going to come out with a degree and 4 years experience, and she's getting paid already. So, she can get a mortgage straight away after uni. I mean, after a degree apprenticeship. But as someone who's getting student loan, you're not going to be like getting your mortgage as soon as you finish at the age of 21 or 22, because what's going to be on your mind is getting a job.
But I'm happy. As for me, I'm happy I didn't go that route because I wanted to. Apart from the apprenticeship, initially at my workplace, they were doing a program that once you start working, they can send you, your hospital will send you.
Yeah, that's
which I wanted to. But because of my color, they didn't send me. 2 words I changed to they didn't. People that started after me, they sent them. So thank God I did not actually go that route, because some of them dropped along the line because what they are doing to them. And it's even good to them white, but to us, what they will do to you, you'll be crying. Even that thing you want to know, you'll be able to know it. Yeah. And that's why at the end of the day, I was just, even if it's the debt, one way or the other, the debt will go. But at least I have peace of mind with what I'm doing. I am just telling you. Yeah, I'm telling you. Some people dropped out. Despite they're not going to pay.
Big mommy, see, one thing is, everybody, just the way you research about university. No, I'm just saying, I understand where you're coming from.
We've been talking about, coming out without debt, coming out without debt.
Yeah, but one thing is, just the way we research about university, research about secondary school, I would not advise anybody to go blindly into degree apprenticeship. Right? You should research, actually. I might be working in a place that's, or maybe I have a place that's offering this. After my research, if it doesn't work, I will not stay. I mean, I will not even start that contract with you. But what most people do is they just jump at it. When they now get in, they now find themselves in trouble. Now, I work with KPMG. KPMG, I come across people who do apprenticeship and people who came in as as graduates. I interview both of them, and I know the pressure that is in the interview process for degree people and apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is you interview them, but it's more like encouraging them. So you're coming into an organization as 18-year-old or how old, and we are even encouraging you come. And before you know it, you have a degree, you have 4 years experience. And after their 4 years experience, they become managers. So, and somebody is coming with a degree, you spent 3 years, everything, and you go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 1 plus to stage, and at the end of the day, they'll tell you, oh, we are sorry, we can't hire you at this point. So, one thing is, if you have the opportunity to do that with the right organization, you would benefit. If you go to the wrong one, yes. Just like somebody who goes to the wrong college would definitely have issues.
Yeah, I mean, as with everything, there are pros and cons. You have to do what is best for you. But my point is, know that there are options.
And I think as parents, we need to also remind our children if they decide to go down the university route, don't just sit in uni. Don't expect to just have a qualification at the end of it and then you'll get a job.
Yeah.
No, even whilst being in uni, there are opportunities for you on your summer break, your winter breaks, for you to go and join organisations, get that practical experience, and then use that as soon as you've finished your degree to enter into university, enter into organisations that way. And that is also looked on very highly. Yeah. So regardless of the route you take, there are options to kind of have a mix of both, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can have a university degree that is 4 years, where one of the years you've gone to get practical experience.
Yes.
So there is,
or even take a gap year and go and work
and do it yourself.
Actually, I think there's a disadvantage there. Is maybe the type of university you eventually go under the degree apprenticeship. Because I was asking someone one day, he's not African, about, why didn't you go for the apprenticeship? And he said that I'll just mention one of those universities, right? Maybe for another person, it doesn't matter. Maybe for some other people, it has to be London Business School, or it has to be Warwick or something. So maybe for those people, degree apprenticeship might not necessarily work, because the organization tends to determine the set of universities you go, not you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, what I say to parents all the time is, don't, like, your child is going into uni to study education and they're working at Primark, and throughout the uni they're working at Primark. And when they finish uni, you expect them to get a job straight away as a teacher. It doesn't work that way. If your child is working in education, get them to go and work as a TA, for example, in a primary school. Get them to do voluntary work experience in the field that they're going into. Because otherwise, when they finish at uni, then you're going to be praying, God, give my child a job. It doesn't work that way. God listens to prayers, but you are not going to go to a school and say, oh, come and employ me as a teacher, but I have my experience from Primark. Oh, I talk to people a lot, I'm at the tills, I have good communication skills, I have good this. I'm not going to employ you, I'm sorry. No, it's not enough, exactly. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so let's just quickly wrap it off. Okay, so obviously, if we can continue talking and talking and talking. Everyone has so much to talk about, so many experiences to share. But one thing I'm going to say to round up is, if at any point, you need any information or guidance regarding college, sixth form, please feel free. If you can speak to Sister Anna, or you can send me an email. My email. Well, you have my number, so behave yourself. And you know my address off by heart, so you can knock on my door. Or if there's an issue, at your child's college or sixth form, and you don't know how to go about it, because a lot of times, parents just think, yeah, I can't do anything, the school has all the powers, blah, blah. If you need support or guidance on how to deal with your child's post-16 education, please feel free. It's free of charge, so don't be scared that I might charge you if you call me. But yeah, if there is no question from anyone or any more contribution, I would say thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. So it is now almost 5:30, and this was the time that we were meant to end. So in theory, we could just close it now and go home, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to give let's give ourselves a 5 minutes break to go to the loo, get some food, and then if we can come back at 5:30 for what is going to be the closing session. Pastor's not going to do his session. We'll have to come back another day for that, because we have prayers at the end for the kids, and we need to be out by a certain time. So 5 minutes break, everybody, and we want the kids back in here as well, because they're going to have to do some things too. So toilet break, gossip break, hugging break, all of that. And if you want your picture taken, there's a gentleman here who is into that kind of thing, and he's very good, he's great. He can take nice pictures of us. Those of us with colored hair, those of us with black hair, those of us with all manner of hair, even with our children and everything, please. Thank you. 5 minutes, no.
That's what I'm asking. Everything said was yeah. Does this to me. Does this to me. My mom is always shouting. What wrong with
Are you going to make the kids tell you what we do?
No, we don't need to know that. Let's not you know what? I don't need to tell them. It's not like that. Your mom is leaving you here.
You know, you want to look at it, take one, and the other person's looking back, and, you know,
to head back. Everybody who's in the hallway, everybody who's in the toilets, please let us come back. Children, can you come back and sit down, please? If there's anything on the table that needs to go to the bin, put them in the bin. Come and sit down. There's 2 chairs here. Come on, come and sit down. Because you have to listen to this next session. Everybody, please, let us come back so we can finish, not on time, but close enough. Please let us come back, slowly but surely. Mr. David, please come and sit down. Yeah, Martha, please come and sit down. Mr. Bayo, everybody, please. Let us start the next final session.
Even you, Mommy.
We've had a good time.
Careful, guys.
Please, so let's come back. Gabriel, I can see you. No, you can't get it. Can you please come back, everybody? We need to get started. Whoever wants to take their rice, go and take it now and bring it back, please. Thank you.
Fine. Mary, if you went up to your mom,
Can we call our mommies to come back? Big mommy, Sister Tommy, Sister Felicia, who else is out there? Please, we need you back. Ayos and Julian, please come back inside. Come and sit down, please. Final session.
Mommy, could you do this?
Final session, please. Have mercy.
Mommy, could you do this?
What do you want to do?
Mommy,
What are you looking at?
Mommy, could you do this?
It's on the camera.
I want it to be
No, she is. It's there.
Mary, why are you so happy about this?
Okay, Sister Choma, we're going to have to start without half the crowd, but it's fine.
I don't want to go and do session because I went there.
These plastic plates, please. If you have them, do not put them in the bin, please. The hard plastic plates, please. Give them to me. I'm going to take them home and wash them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Guys, are we here? Are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody that's at the back there, can you please sit on the rows for us, please? It's going to look nice in pictures.
Yeah. You got that.
What's my mistake?
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all. And so as we start this session, we're just really thankful to everyone else who shared in the previous sessions, because it's been informative. So thank you, Sister Anna, for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure. And it's been really good just to hear everyone and hear all the discussions. I mean, I was saying I should be at home by now. We're really thankful for all the conversations. I think it's so important, because I think the more we have these conversations, the more as parents we feel equipped, the more we can leave a legacy. Because I always say, when we think of legacy, we always think of money. But actually, legacy is far more than money. You know, you think your legacy is like, what have you taught your children about being resilient? Have you taught them about being able to mix with people? You know, and I know a lot of people that were speaking. My friend here, Simon, he's actually not even Nigerian, he's actually Caribbean. So what you guys were saying, he's Caribbean, but we both trained as youth ministers many years ago, so he's coming here. Yeah. But a bit of intro. So I'm Chioma Fanaopa, and I've got a 17-year-old son who's like 6 foot, and so I say he's my bodyguard when we go out, and then his brother is 10. And so really being able to navigate these conversations over the last 17 years and more. But a bit of background, trained as a teacher, but dropped out. So, and then worked as a youth minister for a number of years. And recently really been really passionate about mental health, especially in our community, because it's something that we don't talk about enough. I'm really saying, how can we as parents raise emotionally resilient children? I always say children are tough cookies. They're tougher than we give them credit for. But if we equip them and empower them with those skills, then we can raise them to thrive in society. Next slide, please. And so really, as we think about, today we're looking at things around just awareness of emotional intelligence, and then we're looking at love languages as well. And so because of time, I probably won't do certain things, but we'll go on, we can move on. So being a school governor, do a few things, a parent and teen coach, and a few other things that I do as well. So the first, emotional intelligence. So I always say, when we think of the need to feel love is a primary human emotional need. And I've seen it with my family and even cousins and relatives around me who've grown up, have mentored a lot of young people. Some of them I've known since they were like under 14, and they make me feel old now because some of them are in their 30s, are married with children. I'm like, okay, time has really gone. But I think something that I've really learned is that there is one thing every child and young person wants, is to be loved, to be accepted, to feel that they belong. And today we're going to be looking at some of those. And so there is something that we look at, especially teach trainers and other people, you look at something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And actually, if you look at that, the most important thing that is equally to be loved as well and accepted. And I know as parents, especially as Black parents, we think we're here to create a better life for our children, so they should be grateful. But if we haven't built that relationship, those children might not want to hang out with us, especially when they get to a certain age. So how can we build that relationship with them in the early stage, those foundations we've been talking about, so that when they're old enough, they can talk to us? I was speaking to a parent today, she's got 3 teenage daughters, and she said when her girls were younger, they would spend time with her. She was busy, but she made time for them. But now they're teenagers. The eldest one is starting sixth form. She's too busy. The mom will be like, when are we going out? And she'll be like, I'm busy, mom. So that's why it's really important. They might be young now, but we have to make time for them, because those foundations we make now is what determines the future outcome of relationships that we have with them. There's some family members of ours, and when their parents come into the room, the children will just walk out of the room. Because they're like, and the parents will be like, oh, we'll just come. Because they were too busy for them when they were younger. They didn't have time for them. They were too busy. So now that those children, they're young, they're adults now, the parents will walk in the room and they walk out. Because when they were younger, the parents were like, we're too busy. We're working, chasing money. We don't have time for you. So now that they have time, the children are like, we don't have time for you now. And so those are the questions I really want us, as parents, but also as young people, how are we developing those relationships with our children? Next one, please. So this is another quote by a man called Gary Chapman. He wrote a famous book called
5 love languages. And one of the things he talks about is inside every child is an emotional tank, waiting to be filled with love. And I know sometimes in the Black community and in the African community, we think love. Our children. And it's not easy because most of us didn't grow up with that. So we're having to learn. And it's the same way we've been learning about education. We're having to learn about, doing the work, doing the research. So there's a video here, and it's one on emotional intelligence in children and adults. That I don't know if is it okay to watch it or should we move on to next? I'm just thinking of time.
Do you have certain parts of it that you want us to watch?
Yeah. So let's start it and then we can stop. So. just really thinking about emotional intelligence. I mean, it has benefits for everyone. When, as parents, but also as children, we are equipped with the tools to be emotionally intelligent. And so, you know, we were talking today about like grades, but did you know that things like emotional intelligence is as important as your grades? Because if as a child you can't regulate, I mean, there was something I think Sister Felicia talked about, that if a child doesn't know how to regulate themselves, so they're getting involved in fights and things like that, or breaking up, you know, friends and they're fighting, they're falling out, if they don't know how to regulate that, then it has an impact later in their future lives. And really, when we teach children, even as young as some children here, how to regulate themselves, understand their emotions, but also we as parents, we are able to be empathetic towards them when they're emotionally, you know, even with toddlers, you know, we talk about the terrible tools, but actually every single time, through that emotion, that child is communicating something. What are they saying to you? You know, when a child, you mentioned, Sister Felicia, you talked about when your child wasn't happy with a particular teacher, they didn't want to go to school. What were they communicating?
She was trying to tell me that something was wrong in that class and she wasn't learning really. Yeah.
And I think when we understand our children and we don't dismiss their feelings or their emotions, then they're able to come to us. But if they're not able, if they don't feel safe enough, it's actually about safety as well. If they feel safe enough to say and share, and as parents we take it on board, then it means that we can help them. You go.
In school, I
think. Let's get mine. Please would you pass on mine? Thank you.
In school, we're told that certain emotions, we shouldn't be feeling certain emotions, like, oh no, you're not allowed to be angry, you're not allowed to be sad, which I think is quite misleading, because that's what leads people to think that there's something wrong with them if they're not always happy or if they're not always joyful.
Absolutely, and I think sometimes as Christians as well, because we can say we're not allowed to be sad. I mean, in the Bible, Jesus was angry, you know, and it says you can be angry but sin not. Because those are emotions that we have, and it's about acknowledging and saying, actually, I'm feeling really angry. However, and this is why I'm feeling angry. But when you understand that, you say, okay, I'm feeling angry because I always say children have a sense of justice. That's not fair. I mean, I'm sure you heard that a lot, but it's like, that's not fair, because children always, they have a sense of justice, and they'll be like, and probably mom and dad, you hear them say, oh mom, that's not fair. Children have a sense of justice, they really do. And we've got to listen to them, we've got to take it on board and try to understand what they're saying. I mean, yesterday I was at a school in Bromley, and I was speaking to some senior leaders about diversity and inclusion. And during the workshop, we were talking, it was a session I was facilitating. And the questions I was asking them, do your children here feel a sense of belonging? Do they feel accepted? Do they feel that they can come to you with any issues and you listen? If in a classroom a child is raising their hand all the time and you don't pick them, they'll stop putting their hand up because they're like, that teacher doesn't like me, that teacher doesn't care, why should I engage? So they will completely disengage. And it's the same as at home. If that child is saying something, and as a parent we dismiss them and we're like, oh, you don't know anything, then that can be really problematic. Go on, Yuma, what do you say?
I wanted to say, in school, when we show emotions, our teachers sometimes come to us and tell us what's the matter. When we feel sad, it's either that we go to the teacher or they tell us to go out the classroom to calm down a little bit. But I think that's a little bit unfair for some children, because when someone gets involved for something they didn't do, saying like when someone's angry and they blame someone else for doing something that they didn't even do, it's a little bit unfair for that person who didn't do anything, but the person who didn't even get blamed.
Because I think what happens a lot of times, the teacher might only catch you doing something, and that's what usually happens. They might not see when that other person is doing something wrong, but then when you retaliate or you act, then you're the one who gets in trouble and you're cool. But at that moment, what I say to my son, he's 10, and I say to him, you know what, wait till the end of the lesson, and then stop and say, Miss or Sir,
Actually, I didn't do what I got in trouble with. That child did it. But you didn't see, the only person you saw doing it was myself. And it's about being able to go to your teacher and hopefully they will take what you've said on board as well. So thank you for that contribution. What do you have to say, young lady?
In school, when we're talking about emotions, when someone is angry, sad, frustrated, there's this corner that they could go to. It's because that sometimes when they see who's friend who's more, sometimes they say how you're feeling. If someone's angry or frustrated, they could go to the corner sometimes. And I'm in year 3, so it's a bit different, but still the same. If someone has any of those feelings, they could go to the corner and complain with the sitting.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I think that's something that even at home as well, we have to incorporate. Like, you know, when a child is angry or crying, we will say, I'll give you something to cry for. But actually, it's true, but it's so true though. But we have to really just, I'll give you some, why are you crying? You're gonna stop crying. But if we're not allowing them to express that emotion, you're laughing. Because it's true. But the thing is that if we don't allow them to feel those emotions, they bottle it up. And then when they let it out, it's explosive. You know, I used to work with teenagers in Croydon, and some of the young men, I used to run a youth club, and I always say to parents, I would rather we support that young person early. A bit like in schools, they talk about early intervention. For me, I'm a big advocate of early intervention because if you see things not quite right with the emotions, they're getting angry, they're flying off the handle, and you need to get to the bottom of it because if you don't, I always say, I'd rather we support them early than later, God forbid, the police are turning up here at the door that your child is stabbed somebody else. Because we saw that a lot. So really, how do we help support them with those emotions, those anger? Whether it's anger management, we might not like it because we say, what do you mean anger management? It's only a teenager. But if we don't support them, they can get to the other side and they end up getting in trouble. You know, but all the things we can do as well. I mean, I remember talking to my son at the time he was 14. I was talking to him about stuff I said. I was saying, this is what you do. And it's about us as parents, picking our children. Because they have a sense of justice. They're like, why did that police officer stop me? I haven't done anything wrong. But if you teach them the appropriate ways to respond, when they're stopped, and they'll just, you know, they know the protocol. They're like, okay, afternoon officer, because their name's on there. You say, could you tell me please, why have you stopped me? Because what we find is when that's not done properly, if they're stopped, some boys actually end up getting arrested because of the way they react to them. They get angry and they shut, and they end up in handcuffs. So for me, I always say, let us pick our children first, so that when they get to those scenarios, they know what to do. And so I've just put a few things here. So really modeling appropriate emotional expression. So a bit like they talked about, like in schools, they're told to go into a corner if they're feeling overwhelmed. Get them fidget toys. I mean, sometimes it can be distracting, but it's a sensory thing as well, because sometimes there's a sensory overload. And it's about giving them those things, like, you know, for younger children, especially things like Play-Doh. I know sometimes we hate it because it goes all over the carpet, but it's quite helpful. You know, things like playing with, you know, sand, those things are helpful as well, just to help children to decompress and help with the sensory overload. And we're developing things like problem-solving skills. So if your child is crying, rather than saying, I'll give you something to cry for, it's okay. Finish crying. What's really going on? And it's the same way in schools, teachers do. We have to do the same. What happened? What could you do differently? What have you learned from it? The children I always say children are far more intelligent than we give them credit for. The way a child will turn their mom and dad against each other, they're clever. So we need to help them to utilize those problem-solving skills. What went wrong? What could you do different? What have you learned from that? Another things I've put as well is teaching healthy coping skills. So if they're feeling angry or upset with their friends, let's talk about it. What went wrong? Because the more we talk, children are really, I mean, I'm just amazed hearing some of them as they express themselves, and it just shows that we need to give them that credit because they really know what they're talking about and listen to them a lot more. Because I think a lot of times it's because of the way we were brought up. Because I always say, growing up in Nigeria, children, you're seen and you're not heard. You know, you're not heard. You've got nothing to contribute. But children today, we can't raise them the way our parents raised us. They wouldn't even allow us anyway. We will try. They wouldn't allow us to. You know, because they know. And you might think, oh, what does that child even know? But they do know. But the more we involve them, the more we talk to them. And it is harder work, but you reap the dividends later on when you put in the work. Now, a bit like what we're talking about with schools. If you start the work in primary schools, in secondary, then you reap the dividends later. And I've been hearing, Sister Deborah, I think, yeah, you know, hearing you sharing your story as a child, you were that talkative child in class. But looking now, you're able to utilize that skill in speaking to people. And it's about seeing the bigger picture. Because sometimes as parents, when we're caught up in the moment, always see that child who's always talking in class. But we're not seeing that actually maybe they will use that skill in future as a teacher, as whatever, politician or whatever. You know, but it's seeing those gifts that God has put into our children. And, you know, showing empathy, because I say sometimes we can show more empathy to people outside our homes. And we need to show the same grace. And I know I'm guilty because I know that sometimes I can be way more gracious with people outside than in my own home. And I have to actually stop myself and say, God, I'm thankful for the children you've given to me. I know right now I'm getting annoyed with them, but behind it all, what's really going on here? And sometimes it can be us as well, that we're feeling overwhelmed and we take down our children. You know, in schools, they say things like, you know, count to 10. Do we employ those skills? Do we teach our children those skills? If you're going through your things are really hard, you stop and just breathe. Because actually, there's something quite psychological about stopping and taking a deep breath. Because then you don't make rash decisions and you regret later. Because the other thing is that words are really powerful. The things you say to our children, they remember it. I was speaking to a lady, she's 40, and she said, I remember my dad used to say to me, oh, look at you, you're so short, you're not my child. And it's only taking therapy now for her to start to believe in herself because of those words. And she said she was talking to her dad, and her dad doesn't even remember. He said, I didn't say that. But of course, the person who heard it remembers what was said. And the dad was like, I didn't say that, but that's what she remembers. And it's cost her her self-esteem for all these years. Only now at 40 that she's like, now I can look people in the eye. Because before that, I couldn't. I always thought, I'll never amount to it because of what her dad said. So we as parents, we have to be aware of the words that we're speaking to our children and emotions. How do you also? It was hard. It was hard. It's only now she's actually doing career nuggets, and that's how she's been able to. But she said it took a long time. It was hard at work because she would be the one that would look down, and you know, so she couldn't really progress at work because she didn't believe in herself. But she's had to do a lot of deep inner work, therapy, counselling, and that's something I would say as well. I know in our communities we're not a kind of counselling, but I say counselling saved my life, and I recommend it. Children and adults, because a lot of us have been through traumatic things, and if we're not careful, we pass it on to the next generation. And so in that legacy, we can say this cycle ends with me. Because I always say things like therapy, you actually, it's a sign of strength because you're asking for help, you're unlearning. Because that's what made me go to therapy. Because I said I didn't want my children to experience what I experienced. And if we're not careful, because of that, we can be overprotective. But doing therapy helped me to learn and relearn and do better. And so thinking about things that we can do, so healthy coping skills. What coping skills can we teach our children? Rather than, we like to shout and raise our voice. Now, I'm guilty. But what can we teach them about taking time out and listening and hearing and learning and growing? So some benefits of emotional intelligence. Did you know this actually, that high EQ, emotional intelligence, or they call it emotional quotient, is linked to high IQ? Because if a child knows their feelings, they know themselves, they know, okay, I'm really feeling tired, or mornings are not my best time for studying. Or I really like science or maths. Because when you're self-aware, then it impacts everything else that you do as well. And they say children with higher levels of emotional intelligence perform better on the test. So they get the grammar school and the independent school test, they do really well. They also tend to have higher grades. So we talked about high grades before, but actually when children are aware, and I hear some of these young ladies here being articulate about their emotions and feelings, and I think that helps in the future. Yeah, so, yeah, go on. It's Martha, isn't it?
But something that I think.
You need a mic, camera. Give a mic to Martha, thank you.
But something that I think, because people always tell you, go and tell someone that you're comfortable talking to, or go and talk to your parents or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that there's not always gonna, because I know that so many people have like different friends that they can talk to, different people that they can talk to, but like some people don't really have other people that they're that comfortable talking to about it, because people may say that, oh, go and talk to your parents, go and talk to these people that they assume you are comfortable talking to with, but that's not always the case.
Absolutely.
So, and also stress is something that kids struggle with, because they can be stressed at school, like you can be fighting with your friend or something, and it doesn't help if you're coming back home and also your parents are fighting or something.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you're right.
And like parents may think that it doesn't have an impact on their
It
children.
does.
Like,
It
it's
does.
fine, it's only between us two, it's not like she's hearing anything.
Oh, you can hear. You guys are smart,
Yeah.
so you can hear. And the thing I remember recently, a cousin of mine, he's 30 and he's a pediatric doctor. And I said to him, oh, you're this eligible bachelor, you've got a good job. Are you looking to settle down? He was like, not really. And I said, why not? He said, growing up, I saw my dad mistreat my mom. Like he used to beat her, he was abusive. And he said, I don't want to settle down because I don't want to be my dad. And when he said that, I was like, oh my goodness, but exactly what you were saying, that children see all the things that he saw growing up. So he's like, I don't really want to get married and settle down. And that's why we have to really think about what our children are seeing and hearing. Like you said, we might think, because I always say you guys are too smart, you're sharp. You hear it, you see it. You know, our parents might be, they can't hear us, they're sleeping. They can hear. They can hear. So really just thinking about what we do at home. Because those at home are the closest to us and they see, we might come out and, have this perfect outward things, but those that we live with, they know. They know. So thank you for sharing that. And then better relationships. So emotional intelligence skills help children manage conflict, a bit like what we're talking about. So if you're fighting with your friends, because you have that emotional intelligence, you know, okay, maybe what actually caused the fight? What's this fight about? Because sometimes you're feeling very stressed with exams or pressure, because we know the pandemic has really affected everybody. I mean, they say, I remember seeing a child who was 2, and they were actually, the parent was saying that child hasn't really had all this adult interaction because of COVID. And I'm sure teachers have said the same, that children are sort of a year behind emotionally, sometimes educationally as well, due to the pandemic. So the pandemic has meant that there's a lot of anxiety out there, there's a lot of stress out there. And as parents, what can we do to help to alleviate that rather than increase it? And so adults with high levels of emotional intelligence also report better relationships in their personal and professional life. So it actually affects every aspect of what we do. Because if you know yourself, you can say, actually, oh gosh, I can't, that manager, or I like to, because some managers might be saying they micromanage and they like to get involved, but you're like, I don't like people like that. But if you can express, if you know that about yourself, then it helps you to work better professionally with people as well. Again, childhood EQ is linked to higher success during adulthood. I mean, there's a lot of research that children who were able to share, cooperate, and follow directions at age 5 were more likely to obtain degrees and to begin working full-time jobs by age 25. So again, it reminds me of what we're talking about primary school and starting young. If we equip our children with the skills, then when they're older, they're more likely to work full-time jobs and stay in those jobs as well. And he also predicts lifelong success, like I think it was Debbie that was talking about things like Progress 8, and he's looking at children in year 2, but how it determines their futures. And so it's the same as emotional intelligence. So improve mental health. I mean, again, we're talking about mental health. And it's something I say in our community we don't quite understand, but I always say that mental health is as important as physical health. We might minimize it, but it's equally as important. Because things like anxiety can stop us functioning from day to day. I remember at one point I was going through panic attacks on the motorway, and I couldn't understand. I was like, I had been driving for like over 10 years. I used to go on the motorway, I didn't have any issues, but suddenly, and that was what I was saying about how therapy can save your life, because that helped me to start to process, but also to understand what is really behind this panic attack. And I realized there was other things that were going on in my life at the time, going through a divorce, and I think that was the thing that was triggering certain things in my life. But sometimes you don't see the link, because you're like, we tend to isolate things, we tend to look at one thing rather than the other, but they're all linked. You know, they're all linked with your physical health, your emotional health is all linked. And it says individuals with high levels of emotional intelligence are less likely to experience depression and other mental illnesses. Because when we're putting our children, then when those things come, they can understand, okay, I'm feeling angry because, I'm feeling sad because, and we can name it. Because I think when you can name those feelings and those emotions, then you can get the right help and support. Next one, please. And a child who can calm themselves when they feel angry is likely to do well in difficult circumstances. And a child who can express their emotions in a healthy way is likely to maintain healthier relationships than a child who screams or says mean things when they're angry. Because if you're angry and all you can do is be really horrible to people, rather than taking a step and saying, okay, I'm feeling really angry right now, but I'm going to take a step and just count to 10 or calm down, and then I'll come to you. And even as parents, we're modeling that. And I know I've been really stressed and I've been saying, I had to apologize to my children because I'm like, I'm really sorry. That's something we don't like to do, because we're like, we're the parent. Why should I apologize? You're the child. But I have to say, I'm really, really sorry, because I'm really stressed at the moment. And unfortunately, I'm taking it out on you. Because when we're teaching our children that, then when they've done wrong, they will find it easier to apologize to us. But also it's for their future relationships as well that we're equipping them and giving them those tools. You know, this summer holiday, I was really upset. There were things going on in my life, and I was taking it out, and I had to really put my hand up and say, you know, I'm really sorry. And I think our children actually respect us more when we do that. Because it takes a lot of strength and vulnerability to be able to do that. So love languages, Gary Chapman, he was the one that coined the term. And there are a few things: physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. And we were going to do it, but I'm not sure in terms of time. How much time we have? I can put the link in. Okay, so there's a link that's coming up. And actually you can do it. So if you're a teenager, you can actually do one for yourself as well. If you're a parent, you can do one. So there's a quiz that it's good for you to know. And I'll tell a quick story about this. So I remember with my eldest, he was probably about 13 or so. And he used to say he really didn't feel that his dad loved him. And I couldn't understand it, because I was like, why did he feel like that? And when we did the 5 love languages quiz, I realized something, that his love language was gifts. And because he wasn't getting that, he felt that he wasn't loved, which was really, really interesting. And that's why for us, because as parents, we might think, yeah, I'm buying you clothes and you've got a roof over your head. But if you're not taking time to actually meet that, for some children, it might be like physical touch. So some children are very affectionate, they want to give you hugs all the time. But some of us, we've not grown up with that. So we're like, oh, don't come near me, don't hug me. But it's finding out what your child's love language is. And sometimes is the words of affirmation. So some of us, words are really important. A bit like that friend I was talking about. For her, those words that she heard from her dad, it's only now at age 40 that she's been able to unlearn and start to see herself as amazing, because her dad said those things to her. So what are your love languages? So there's a link here. So you've got the one for children, for teenagers, and also couples as well, and if you're single. Yeah. So something that we can do, I think most of you teenagers have a phone. Yeah, okay, so we can do that quickly. So the link is 5lovelanguages.com. I'll put the link in
in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
I don't know whether it's gonna work, but it is a network badge. If we don't do it here, we can go and do it at home.
Okay. Oh, there's a
Can
mic.
show us.
Yeah, okay.
You can do yours
And then show it to us. Okay.
And actually, it also changes as well, because I know for me it's changed over the years. So that's why it's important to do it, because sometimes it does change.
Oh, I already done mine.
Oh, you did it? When?
Yeah, I've done it before, like a week ago.
Oh, wow. So there you go. So what can you tell us? Can you share with us?
Mine was words of affirmation.
Wow. You see, that's really helpful. That's really good to know, because then.
It had like percentages of like other ones.
Yeah.
There's less on so easy to touch because I don't like people touching me.
Yeah, exactly. But you can see how accurate. I would say it's probably, I'll say 90% accurate. Yeah, you press start. Yeah, we can do it. If we do for an adult, so this is me, I'm single. It's more meaningful to me when someone I love sends me a loving note. Yeah, for no special reason. That's really meaningful. Yeah. It's more meaningful for me when I can spend alone time with someone I love, just us. Yeah. When someone I love gives me a gift as a little token. See,
I know mine.
It's tricky. You know yours. Go and tell us.
Acts of service.
So you like it when they take out the rubbish and wash up, you know, like
Breakfast.
and breakfast in bed. Yeah.
It just makes me feel like you want me.
Exactly.
I feel like a master.
No, not that bad, not that bad, but just make yourself available. You know, like leave the car for me, take the cab.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. You know, so someone I love does something, expected for me to tell me, I can share. Yeah, that's first one. It's more meaningful to people that I'm around me. Second one, I love surprisingly. When I'm around someone I love before I'm not doing anything. Yeah, that first one. Yeah, so in different ways, yeah. So I'll probably say a gift is good. Yeah, gift is. I sit with someone, I'm complimented by someone I love, yeah. See, I like both. See, some of these questions are like, but I'll choose to hang out. Hanging out is quite good. Yeah, definitely I'm proud of you. See, whereas helping with the task will be Sister Felicia, but yeah, and you'll see. And it's really knowing that. That's what Simon says. So I hear supportive words from someone I know. I think the second one, I feel connected. I love to run on you. I hear praise. That's what I was thinking. Praise. Are you doing the one I said, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you do mine. Yes.
Is anyone else doing it?
Are you doing the teenagers one? Yeah. Oh, you've done yours. What's yours? Can you share? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it can be two. Yeah, sometimes it can be two as well. I think just be around someone I know. Someone I know. Yeah, the first one. Second one, please. I think the first one. Second one, definitely. Second one. Now second. See, that's what I mean. Mine is checked a lot over the years. So definitely.
First one. First one. Second one. Second one. First one. First one. Second one. Second one. First one. First one. Second one. Okay, so you see this, interesting. So you see this is the okay, so results are here. Is that the teenage one? Oh, the child one, okay, okay. You do the teenage one.
I've got active service.
Okay. Is that, do you like people doing things for you?
Yeah, I've got active service and then quality time and then what's this one? Words of affirmation, then gifts and then.
Okay. So I usually say the top two things are the things to look at.
Actually, no, never mind. I think, but like,
it's not 100% accurate.
yeah, because like,
It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you an understanding of yourself. That's what this is about. Have you done it?
I haven't done it.
Okay.
But see, my friend got physical touch. She doesn't really like being touched by people.
Because that's exactly what we were saying about your daughter as well. Okay, yeah, we were saying the same as well. So what it does, it just gives you a healthy understanding so you can understand it for yourself. But you can see with me, I like quality time. It hasn't always been quality time, to be fair. But I think now, maybe as a tired mother.
Your physical touch is at the bottom.
But that's what I mean. It hasn't always been. But it's changed. It's changed over time.
It's like,
It's changed over time.
it's like, don't touch me.
I'm like, now, just give me time. But it's interesting. People, they say something that children, and this is really true, that children equate time with love. Children equate time with love. I remember hearing this story of this little boy whose dad was really busy, he was always working. And it's probably a story, one of those stories on Facebook that went viral. And then once he said to his dad, "Dad, how much is your hourly rate?" And the dad was like, I can't remember, I think it was something like £50. So the boy was able to raise £50 and save it. And then eventually gave it to his dad and he said, "Dad, here's £50. How can I have an hour with time?" Because the dad was always busy. So he was like, if I can pay my dad for at least 1 hour, he will spend it with me. So it's so important. Sometimes, we always think time has to be expensive, but even just walking to the park, even just playing a board game, even watching a movie together, just simple, because I always say children are not expensive. Maybe when they become teenagers, expensive. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. When they become teenagers, then they become expensive. But in the early days, yeah, they're not. They're happy. Yeah. In the early days, they're not. And I've got a quote, and then you should be finishing off. And I saw this quote, and I thought, this is such a powerful quote. It says, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults." And there's so many broken adults out there due to different circumstances in life. But if we can change the trajectory of our family, then their future spouses don't have to do that work of helping to heal or repair a broken adult. And society doesn't have to deal with repairing a broken adult as well. So we as parents, God has given us our children. And one thing that reminds me, I always say these children are, actually I'm just a caretaker. And we have to remind ourselves of that, because sometimes we're like, "You're my child, you need to do what I say, you need to jump out high." And Sister Felicia, you mentioned something about a child, like sexuality and things like that. And over the years, I've mentored a lot of young people, and one particular young person, I saw her a couple of weeks ago. I've known her, she was called Deborah, I knew her when she was like 14, and I met her at 30 years old. She had transitioned as a man.
She had a beard. No, seriously, this is real. And actually, when I saw her, well, he's a hit, but I've known her. I hadn't seen her for. I know we were trying to work it out over 10 years. But it's a guy, and I was like, and she said, you know, I knew you in church, so you're probably just gonna be judgmental. But I was like, you know what? For me, I always say, God is a God of love, and if I'm judging her, all I'm doing is pushing him away. And it's about creating that safe space. I mean, you mentioned that many parents don't even know that their children, you know, whatever is going on in their lives.
Not from boy to girl, but they don't even know the orientation.
No, they don't.
They don't know whether they kids are bi or
Yeah, they don't know. And one thing I respect about the mom, she had actually supported her son. She actually went to the hospital with the son. But
In England.
Yeah, they need mom. Yeah. But you know what he said to me? He said, some of my friends have taken their lives because their families didn't know what to do with them. So some of his friends, they're gone today, they're not there. He says a few of my friends are gone because their parents their family couldn't deal with the shame. But his own mom. And I really respect, because I'm like, she's a Ghanaian mom. She could have easily gone the other way with it. But she's got 2 other children who are, her son who's married, the daughter who, you know, but this particular one was like, transitioned, did all the surgery.
Is he happy now?
He's very happy. He said, I'm the happiest. And that's when he started to tell me about his friends that had passed away because their families could not deal with it. Yeah, go on.
Okay. I think my first question, before I go into the sexuality stuff, my first question is, how do we help or I don't know, parent a child, especially teenagers, that believe they have they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
They have the right thing you don't have, you don't know. How can you really help? Because in this country, it tends to give children more liberty, kind of. And as a parent, you've passed through, you know, being a teenager before, and you know the roots. And you know that if I leave you, you would end up being a disaster. That at the end of the day, you will be bitter. And you will come back to blame me as your parent again for keeping quiet. But when you talk too much, then you get into trouble with so many people. So how do you go about this? Because now I heard lots of Nigerians that say, okay, let me take you back home. When you are smart enough, you come back. But you can't keep running away, right? So how do you deal with that?
I'm going to say something.
Then secondly is this sexuality stuff, right? When we give birth to babies, now, because sometimes I am a bit confused whether being identified as a gay or being not gay, being identified as